Wait, I want to do a sound check for the people on Zoom.
Okay.
Councilmember Jimenez, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Okay, we're good? Hi, everybody. Welcome. We'll call the meeting to order for the afternoon of May 10th, 2022. Tony, will you please call the roll?
Jimenez,
Present.
Perales, Cohen, Carrasco,
Here.
Davis,
Here.
Esparza,
Here.
Arenas, Foley, Mahan,
Here.
Jones,
Present.
Liccardo.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Tony. If you're able to stand, please join us as we pledge allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Today's invocation will be provided by Jared Carbajal, and Councilmember Carrasco will tell us more.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very excited about introducing Jared this afternoon. I thought long and hard about our invocation for today. I think today's a very special occasion. It's Dia de las Madres in Mexico, Guatemala, and El Salvador. And of course, we just had Mother's Day this Sunday. And so what better way than to unite our world than by music. I love music, love to dance. Some people think that I love to sing, but I'll spare you that. And I love to be serenaded, even at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I thought, what better way to set the mood this afternoon than by bringing some incredible East Side music talent. So let me tell you a little bit about today's invocator, Jared Carbajal. San Jose's native Jared Carbajal is an up-and-coming jazz saxophonist and recent graduate from San Diego State University. Little known secret that he probably doesn't want others to know, but Jared actually went to San Diego State on a Fulbright scholarship due to his musical talent. That's mommy telling me that little secret. And you probably know her, Blanca Carvajal. She was here just a couple of weeks ago. He is well known for his musical work for the Golden State Warriors and theme parks such as Disneyland and California's Great America, and is developing a strong presence in San Jose's musical scene. Jared is a powerhouse as a saxophonist. We just continue to be blessed by the Carbajal family, and I'm very proud to know them, both professionally and personally. During the pandemic, Jared founded at the 408 Collective Music, a funky powerhouse that performs all over the Bay Area, and I was honored to have them play at our leadership event hosted this past Friday at our beautiful Emma Prush Park. They're an incredible group with so much charisma and funky soul. I truly trust that Jared's talent will take him far. Thank you for listening, and I kindly ask Jared to get us started.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jared Carbajal, and I would really like to thank Councilmember Carrasco and the Mayor of San Jose, Sam Liccardo, for having me here today, guys. And then today, I'll really like to make a special dedication for Mother's Day, a really special song to me and my mother. This is Best Part by Daniel Caesar. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Again, thank you all so much. My name is Jerry Carvajal.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you for adding Tetra class to our convening today. All right. Speaking of class, we're going to go on to our ceremonial items, and it is, in fact, Dia de las Madres, and Councilmember Carrasco will be recognizing and proclaiming Mother's Day, I believe, with some others here in our community. Is that right? So, bienvenido a todas las promotoras y gracias a todos ustedes por su liderazgo en esta comunidad.
Buenas tardes. Feliz día. Igualmente, gracias. ¿Alguien va a decir unas palabras? ¿Alguien está designado? ¿Quién? ¿Luz? ¿Angélica? Sí. Pasen. Pasen. Bienvenidas a todas. Y feliz día. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me start by wishing every mother a happy belated Mother's Day. And today, a huge hug to all of the Mexican mothers, Guatemalan mothers, Salvadorian mothers, because May 10th is also Mother's Day, and we get to celebrate it twice. Haha. I'm delighted to share our appreciation for all of the wonderful mothers in the world who do so much for us by proclaiming Mother's Day during today's meeting. Mothers are the backbone of our community. I know we say that a lot, but I think moms deserve a very special place. They're our first providers, they're our caretakers, they're our role models. They care unconditionally, they give without questioning, and they persist fiercely in the name of love. And I know that all of you have at least experienced a mama bear once in your lifetime. And in a world traumatized by violence and fear, war and aggression, our mothers model what true strength truly is. They stand up to injustice, heart in hand, running directly into the path of danger. Although some of us are far from our mothers, or our mothers live in our memories, or some of our mothers are not related by blood, but bound by love, we are all united by their presence. When I think of my own mother, I start to think about how motherhood is an everyday decision. One decides to be brave, one decides to love unconditionally. I'd like to take a minute to shout out all the amazing moms in my life. Firstly, my own mother, who was my biggest support system and the best role model. I miss her every day. As you know, she left us a few years ago. And to all our Eastside mothers, I see you. Caring and fighting for your children, making sure that they are afforded the same opportunities as all of our other kiddos in the city of San Jose. Your constant dedication and your kindness warms my heart and fuels the work that I do. Your own mother, who influenced, taught, and inculcated in you the values that you brought in this very moment in time. And lastly, I want to extend a thank you to my own children who have blessed me into motherhood. For that, I am especially grateful today. Nothing is more important to me than my own family. Y gracias a todas las madres por su dedicación y amor que le dan al mundo. A special thank you to all the wonderful and selfless mothers out there. You are so appreciated. You are so loved. Happy Mother's Day. I'm overjoyed to present this proclamation that the mayor holds in his hand, along with certificates of recognition to the promotoras with Somos Mayfair. Today, we recognize all these amazing 26 women who collectively worked over 20 years in various campaigns and projects in the Mayfair neighborhood area and broadly across all of the east side of San Jose. The promotora model translating to promoter, or for the younger crowd, influencer model. They're influencers. Began in 1973 in Ciudad Juárez, Mexico. Developed to help provide medical care and education to marginalized communities in Juárez. The model leveraged those community members who others trusted to share resources and spread informational campaigns. From there, the promotora model spread across Mexico to other Latin American countries and eventually to the United States. Historically, promotoras are described as community and health workers, though at Somos Mayfair, they revere promotoras as expert organizers, educators, and advocates for and with the community. They've developed and executed effective community engagement, participatory policy creation, and built up local leaders so that they can act. In the past, promotoras have led projects to increase literacy rates in early education, health education, and cultura work through theater and neighborhood improvement projects. More recently, however, they have advocated for affordable housing developments and fair education. They have worked food and resource drives. They have helped lead voter education and GOTV campaigns. That's get out the vote campaigns. They've contributed to the census counts. They've aided in closing the Reed Hillview Airport that has polluted the lungs and the very DNA of our children. And throughout the pandemic, they were front and center, going door to door, educating about the COVID-19 vaccine. Some of the promotoras are also successful co-op business owners, and some work at Somos Mayfair, the Si Se Puede Collective, and the other community-based organizations. During the pandemic, the promotoras risked their lives, dedicating thousands of hours to ensure the most underrepresented and hardest hit communities of East San Jose were seen for and given a fighting chance. They are the backbone of Somos Mayfair and of this city, a living example of what community power truly looks like. We thank them deeply for leading with fearless and unconditional love, often reflected in our mothers. Muchas gracias, señoritas, señoras, chicas, damas, mamás, comadres, compañeras, por su dedicación y por su amor hacia nuestra comunidad. Yo estoy eternamente agradecida. Mil gracias. So, ¿quién va a decir unas cuantas palabras? Ah, gracias.
Perdón. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Luz María Mendoza y vengo con mi compañera Angélica Lujano. Primero que nada, quiero darle las gracias a todos ustedes por haber pensado en este reconocimiento para nosotros. Especialmente le quiero dar las gracias a la concejal Carrasco por haber pensado en mujeres líderes como somos nosotras y por el liderazgo en nuestra comunidad. Especialmente, perdón. Estoy un poco nerviosa. Nosotros como promotoras llegamos a este puesto después de mucho tiempo. Algunas de nosotras dimos mucho tiempo como voluntarias. Llegamos también buscando apoyo moral y ayudas para nuestras familias, para nuestros hijos. También llegamos buscando oportunidades de trabajo y a nuestra comunidad, estar más cerca de ella. Yo, por ejemplo, fui a Somos para buscar ayuda moral, porque venía de un momento muy difícil con 5 hijos y sola. Ahí no solo encontré la ayuda, sino encontré más que eso. Encontré un gran apoyo y una gran familia que me enseñó que nosotros podíamos luchar juntos haciendo lo que ahora estamos haciendo. Por lo tanto, yo me involucré en ser líder y promotora gracias a ellos. Y me dieron la oportunidad de estar haciendo lo que ahora estamos haciendo. Ahora, como muchas de nuestras compañeras, somos dueñas de nuestro propio negocio de cooperativa. En este momento tenemos a 2 cooperativas que son Meta y de Colores. Yo pertenezco a Meta y somos 11 mujeres muy emprendedoras. Nosotros tomamos una estrategia e impacto para nuestra comunidad y del este de San José, y seguimos luchando por lo que sabemos que podemos seguir ayudando. Y a mí me gusta hacerlo porque sé que si un día yo recibí el apoyo que necesitaba mi familia, ahora de esta manera yo puedo regresarle a mi comunidad el apoyo y a darle la fuerza para empoderarlas. Y ahora le dejo la palabra a mi compañera Angélica Lujano.
Hola, buenas tardes a todos. Mi nombre es Angélica Lujano y soy gerente de la organización de Somos Mayfair. Yo empecé como voluntaria aproximadamente hace 20 años en el barrio de Somos y nunca me imaginé que el empezar un líder, un voluntario, podría abrirme puertas grandemente. Primeramente, yo llegué buscando la educación, ¿verdad? Hemos creído fuertemente en Somos que la educación es lo único que realmente va a romper las barreras de pobreza y de falta de apoyo para nosotros y para nuestras familias y para nuestros niños. ¿Qué significa para mí ser un promotor de Somos? Para mí significa ser como una doctora descalza, que realmente siempre tuve la inteligencia, la capacidad y todo, pero simplemente no tener zapatos para caminar al mismo nivel de todos. Y justamente, una promotora descalza llega donde nadie llega, habla con quien nadie habla, le gana el corazón a quien menos se imagina que lo podemos ganar. Nosotras como promotoras somos una red que hemos tejido juntas nuestras mentes y nuestros corazones. Hemos llorado juntas, hemos luchado juntas, pero seguimos juntas y aquí estamos y no nos vamos. Y siempre es nuestra lucha de nosotros constante, decir que estamos una para todas y todas para uno. Los conflictos son parte del crecimiento. Las oportunidades que tenemos nosotros en Somos es una oportunidad para crecer. No es un obstáculo para irnos para atrás. Entre más grandes son las olas, más grande aprendemos a nadar todas juntas. Estoy muy orgullosa de todas y cada una de mis compañeras que el día de hoy tienen la oportunidad de llevar un plato a su mesa justamente con su propio negocio, con todo lo que han logrado juntas. Es inexplicable lo que realmente un líder, promotor de la organización del este de San José, Somos Mayfair, hemos podido lograr. No es tan fácil. Yo no conozco realmente otra organización tan similar como la que existe en el este de San José. ¿Qué escuchamos para el este de San José? Que es un barrio que da miedo, que es un barrio que no es bueno, pero para nosotros que alimentamos nuestra cultura, nuestras tradiciones, el amor a nosotras y a nuestras familias, eso es lo que nos ha hecho crecer y florecer día a día. Para nosotros los obstáculos, vuelvo a repetir, no son obstáculos, son oportunidades. Y así las llevamos día a día, todos y cada uno de nosotros. En mi situación, yo aprendí más sobre mí, el poder y empezar a trabajar en Somos como gerente, y nunca me imaginé que podía llegar a lograrlo. ¿Por qué no pensar un día que yo o cualquiera de ellas es la próxima directora ejecutiva de la organización. Esa es nuestra meta como miembros de la organización de Somos. Estoy orgullosa de todos y cada una de mis compañeras por haber logrado sus negocios y tener un trabajo justo y digno. Y no nada más para Somos, sino para la colectiva de Sí Se Puede, que son 5 organizaciones que trabajamos juntas y unidas con el bienestar común de elevar la economía para nuestra gente. Y realmente una de las misiones de la organización de Somos Mayfair es elevar nuestros sueños. Nunca tenemos que dejar de soñar, porque solamente el soñar nos puede llevar a una realidad. Muchas gracias, felicidades a todas mis compañeras. Gracias.
Okay, we're honoring a couple members of the city team today, and so I'm going to ask Captain Brian Schaub, as well as Deputy City Attorney Vance Chang, to join Councilmember Esparza up here. She's making her way. We're going to recognize and commend them for all their great work.
Hello.
Yes, Santee,
Sure.
please.
Hello, and I think we have some, do we have some folks from the city attorney's office as well? Ah! Just one or two, okay? So today, I'd like to recognize the work of 2 of our extraordinary city employees who have worked tirelessly, I'm just gonna do this just for talking, who have worked tirelessly to support and uplift residents in the Santee community. The Santee neighborhood is one of the highest need neighborhoods, not just in my district, but in the entire city. And residents have long faced challenges of gang violence, housing issues, and many other serious issues that impact their day-to-day lives. And that was before COVID. Santee rests in the heart of the 95122 zip code that has been the hardest hit by COVID in the entire county. This is a very proud and extremely hardworking community of families that have been giving it their all to survive. And so for the past several years, the city has been working really hard. I've been working closely with our PRNS department, police department, city manager's office, the city attorney's office, and other staff to keep a close eye on Santee so that we could do everything we could to ensure the safety and well-being of our residents. And so today I really want to commend a couple of the superstars of this work, Captain Brian Schaub of the San Jose Police Department and Deputy City Attorney Vance Chang, both of whom have been absolutely instrumental in improving public safety measures and housing protections for the residents of Santee. Vance Chang joined the City Attorney's office right before the start of pandemic. Good timing there. Prior to joining the city, Vance worked in private practice near Oakland's Chinatown, providing legal assistance and advice to individuals and businesses on employment, tenant rights, and other legal issues. So with that timing, one of Vance's first assignments after joining the city was to lead these efforts relating to public safety and housing issues in Santee, and his support has been crucial to improving the conditions of the community. So Captain Brian Schaub is a son of East San Jose. He was born at the old San Jose Hospital and grew up in the Checkers neighborhood, which was actually one of the original Project Crackdown sites. He attended nearby San Antonio Elementary, where his 3rd grade teacher, Mrs. Hudson, inspired him to dream about becoming a police officer. After serving in the Army, he joined the San Jose Police Department 23 years ago last month, where he has served in the Metro Unit, the Merge Unit as team leader, and Sergeant Investigations and the Homicide Unit, before becoming captain of the Western Division in May 2021. And so Captain Shab brings his invaluable personal experience growing up in an East Side neighborhood that has its challenges. And throughout his career, he's been able to connect with the community he loves, whether it be a fellow city staff member, which I have seen, like, it's a very small world sometimes. We're a big city, but a very small world, a local small business owner, or a neighbor. One particularly meaningful opportunity came when he was invited to read "Oh, the Places You'll Go" to the students of his alma mater, San Antonio Elementary, and share with them the experience of being inspired to become a police officer by Mrs. Hudson, where he learned she is now a substitute teacher still at San Antonio Elementary. And so Deputy City Attorney Chang and Captain Shab have both worked together with the various stakeholders across the Santee community, residents, property owners, the HOA, and community leaders to increase safety measures and housing conditions in the neighborhood. And so this included working to identify hotspots, conducting walkthroughs with residents to really understand the issues and identify solutions, and making sure that the security in the neighborhood had an effective and accountable system in place to respond to issues. So I'd like to thank Vance and Brian for their dedicated commitment to improving the lives of so many families in the Santee neighborhood. And I'd also like to recognize and thank some other city staff that have been involved in this effort, and I'd especially like to thank Angel Rios, Xochitl Montes, and the Project Hope team. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member, for this honor. Well, first of all, your leadership and dedication to the Santee community really inspiring, and I'm sure it helped ensure the success of this project. I also want to thank Captain Shab and the San Jose Police Department for their assistance. Special thanks to Xochitl Montes from PRNS for her assistance, as well as members of the Project Hope team, Code and Housing Department for their assistance. Also want to thank my supervisor, Nora Ardell Marin, for the opportunity to work on this assignment on my first day. And, you know, I would like to thank my family and friends for their support, as well as my wonderful colleagues at the City Attorney's Office. Special thanks to my team, Kendra, Tammy, Sandy, and Tracy, and as well as Brandy for their help. I couldn't have done it without all of you. Thank you.
Good job, Vance. Good afternoon, everyone. Anyone that knows me knows that I'm much more comfortable giving accolades than receiving them. So kind of in that jest, I'm very honored and humbled to get this on behalf of all the officers that work so hard in that neighborhood, on behalf of my leadership who have given me the vision and the mentorship to kind of accomplish a lot of these things. But probably most importantly, thank you to Councilmember Esparza, because as hard as we work, you're the champion of that neighborhood, and everybody knows it, everybody sees it. And what we're able to accomplish is only because of your leadership and your mentorship. So thank you very much for what you do for that community. Absolutely. I've been doing this job for 23 years, and it's not lost on me how fortunate I am that I get to do something that I love. I still believe very much in what we do. I believe in the people we do it for, and I believe in the people we do it with. We have one of the best departments in the nation, and I couldn't be more proud of them and the work that they do, and the other city folks like Vance. And so thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And I'd also like to thank a special guest that we have, Captain Shab's wife, Teresa.
right. Finally, Councilmember Raul Perales will join me as we recognize National Mental Health Awareness Month.
All right. Thank you very much, Mayor. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us as the City of San Jose recognizes May as Mental Health Awareness Month. And it's a pleasure of mine to be able to stand in today for Council Member Arenas. While 1 in 5 people will experience a mental illness during their lifetime, everyone faces challenges in life that can impact their mental health. A shared challenge for us has been the impact the global pandemic has had on our everyday lives. Since the onset of the pandemic, most of us are talking about mental health and recognizing it as essential to our overall health and well-being. Yet it remains important to continue fighting the stigma, raising awareness, and providing support so that any person experiencing a mental health crisis has a number to call and a system to turn to that connects them to treatment and the support that they need. Today, I'm honored to recognize on behalf of Councilmember Arenas and with the Eastside Union High School District to proclaim May as Mental Health Awareness Month. Depression, self-harm, and suicide are rising among American teenagers. This is a trend that predates the pandemic, but was intensified by it, spanning racial and ethnic groups, urban and rural areas, and the socioeconomic divide. 1 in 6 U.S. youth experience a mental health condition each year, and only half of them will receive treatment. For most, the average delay between the onset of mental illness symptoms and treatment is 11 years. This is just way too long to wait. Eastside Union High School District recognizes that mental health not only impacts the physical health, but the untreated mental health problems that can interfere with learning, socialization, self-esteem, and other important aspects of youth development. At Eastside Union High School District schools, including Overfeld, Evergreen, and Silver Creek in District 8, mental health and wellness social workers provide direct service to students and collaborate with staff members and families regarding students' mental health and wellness needs. Services include calming and de-escalation space, crisis intervention, peer-to-peer support groups, home visits, and other coordinated services provided by community-based agencies. Eastside Union High School District firmly believes that building strong bonds and connecting to youth can protect their mental health. Councilmember Arenas would like you to know that she is incredibly grateful to all the adults that are part of their system, from teachers to social workers to custodians and groundskeepers. All are extremely dedicated to creating a safe space for our youth so that they can feel comfortable seeking help and access the mental health support that they need. I'll end with this. To access mental health services in Santa Clara County, you can call 1-800-704-0900, or you can text RENEW to 741741. And with that, I'd like to invite Teresa Marquez, the Assistant Superintendent at Eastside Union High School District, to receive the commendation from our mayor and say a few words.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Superintendent Glenn Vanderzee and the Board of Trustees for Eastside Union High School District, I thank you for bringing this proclamation forth to recognize the importance of mental health and wellness, and in particular to recognize the role that education plays in protecting and ensuring students' mental health and wellness needs are addressed. In Eastside, we recognize that we must educate the whole child, and to do so, we must respond to not only the academic needs of our students, but also the behavioral and social-emotional needs our students express. All of our high schools are staffed with 2 social workers, have set up a calming space, and are partnered with various community-based organizations to support the various needs of our students. The work of mental health and wellness must be a collaborative effort where social workers, CBOs, and all staff, in particular our teachers, are working together to respond to the needs of our students. Mental health is not a singular event that happens in one moment. It is a process, a journey that requires attention, nurturing, and resources. And our district, Eastside Union High School District, is committed to ensuring mental health and wellness are a priority. Again, on behalf of Superintendent Glenn Vanderzee and the Board of Trustees for Eastside Union High School District, I thank you for bringing this proclamation forth.
right, on to orders of the day. Does anyone on the council have any changes to the printed agenda? Okay, we will then move forward. Actually, forgive me, I don't have the screen up. We don't have anyone online, Tony, who's raising their hand, I assume?
No hands.
Okay, great. I'll pull my screen up now. On to the closed session report. Nora?
Thank you, Mayor. We have a tentative settlement in a case, but it will be coming back to open session, and otherwise, there's nothing else to report out of closed session.
Thank you. Finally, consent calendar, I should say. Next is the consent calendar. Councilmember Esparza would like to pull item 2.10, which are actions related to a grant application for Open Space Authority park development located at Midfield and Havana. I'd like to pull item 2.13, which relates to changes to extend the campaign contribution fundraising period for debt retirement. Are there any other items to be pulled? I'm not seeing any hands. So let's go first to item 2.10. Councilmember Esparza?
Thank you, Mayor. I pulled this item. I know some of my colleagues are familiar with this, but nearly a decade ago, the community came together to transform a small dirt lot just over 1/10 of an acre at the corner of Havana and Midfield in the Tropicana Lanai neighborhood into a community gathering space that the whole community could be proud of. So after years of working with the Open Space Authority, Caltrans, Luna, city staff, and many more residents and organizations, we have finally arrived at approving the full funding for the program that will allow us to get shovels in the ground to construct the soon-to-be known as Mariposa Park. Mariposa means butterfly. It symbolizes renewal and transformation, which is fitting given the transformation of this site. And since we're across the street from San Jose State, if there are any graduate students looking for a project, this park would be a wonderful study of the challenges of having in this over 1/10 of an acre lot, having 4 government agencies, a nonprofit, and the community involved in one project, but also the success that can be achieved when we all work together towards one common goal. And so with that, I'd like to thank a few people. I'm sorry if I miss anyone, but a big thank you to Victoria Partida and the Tropicana Lanai Neighborhood Association, to Luna, to Jane Wu, Thomas Harris, Kevin Ice, Eve Zudi, and last but definitely not least, I'd like to thank Nicole Burnham for their tremendous efforts to get this patch of dirt and transform it into a playground. So with that said, I'm proud to make the motion to approve staff's recommendation to authorize the city manager to submit a grant application and execute a grant agreement with the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority and execute a cooperative agreement with Caltrans to fully fund this pocket park, soon to be known as Mariposa Park.
Motion by Councilmember Esparza, second by Councilmember Davis. Councilmember Esparza, first, congratulations. I know this has been a long road, and the community is really should be commended for stepping up as they have to really push to make this happen. Would you be willing to include all the consent items in your motion?
Yes, I would.
Okay, that's okay with the seconder? Okay, wonderful. Let's take public comment first on 2.10 before we move on.
Jill Borders.
I just wanted to, this is Jill Borders. I just wanted to say congratulations on this. I have been working very hard trying to contact various agencies, some of which it sounds like you have gotten there, and I am just totally impressed, and I do hope some student will take you up on that, and I would read any study that comes out of it to understand how these things get done. So I'm very excited for you, and thank you for all your hard work. That's it. Thanks.
Victoria.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Victoria Partida. I am the president of the Tropicana Lanai Neighborhood Association. And I'm just calling in really to thank everyone who has helped the neighborhood and the neighborhood get to this step. Just as Councilmember Esparza mentioned, it has been a very tedious, very labor-intensive work, all volunteered. So I hope that you adopt the resolution to get moving, and hopefully we have a park by the end of the year. So thank you again, and have a good evening.
Catherine?
Good afternoon. I would like to, I definitely support Mariposa Park, and I'm very glad to see that's going to be starting. I'm also glad to see housing at DuPont Circle, but I'm one of the members of Catalyze SB who is disappointed in the amount of affordable housing and that the affordability isn't really deep enough to help very many people. It's still very restrictive. The project also lacks adequate activation opportunities on the ground floor, which is really essential in that location. We also think they could do a lot more with bike storage, bike trails, rather linkage bike trails, VTA Smart Pass, and a lot of other sustainability things. There's a lot of good features about the project, so we don't oppose it, but we support it in general, but they really need to improve some areas to bring everything up to the same level of quality. Thank you very much.
Brian Darby?
Yes, thank you very much. I really appreciate what the other two speakers said and agree with it. I'm really glad the community got involved. They deserve a lot of credit. And kids need a park. They should be, I know the city wants to have more, but the land is so valuable. It's nice to see people work on it. It was sad. It was not sad. It's frustrating, I'm sure, for it to take that long, but parks should be a very, very high priority. I know people say they are, but I just like to see that be more advanced. Thank you. Have a good day.
Alex?
Good afternoon, Council. This is Alex Shore, Executive Director of Catalyze SV. Speaking on the land use item before you today at DuPont Street and McAvoy Street, a project that Catalyze SV members have worked on for a very long time. You heard one of them, Catherine, give some comments about it a few moments ago. This is a great project in the sense that it'll build 20% of affordable homes below 80% of the area median income in our community, alongside a market rate project. And there will be 4,000 square feet of ground floor activated space that will help bring vibrancy to the neighborhood and to our city. A project that is pursuing fewer parking spaces in line with the forthcoming policy changes we hope are coming to the San Jose City Council soon, and in line with our environmental sustainability goals, especially considering how close the site is to Diridon Station. We do have some things about the project we would like to see improved that Catherine talked about. I think another one of them is they're building a building for many affordable housing residents right next to a building with market rate tenants, and the city's policy appears to allow them to have those amenities be segregated from one building to the next. And our members felt strongly when they scored the project that folks who live in affordable housing should have access to the same quality amenities as their next door neighbors, that's how we create truly integrated and inclusive communities. So welcome any discussion from the council on this topic generally or on this project. Excited to see this project go forward, and the development team, we want to thank them for engaging our members in conversation.
Back to council.
Thank you. All right. I also requested to pull an item which was 2.13. I realize there's a motion, I should have thought of this in advance, to vote on the entire item I'd like to vote no on this item. So perhaps what we'll do is, why don't we go ahead and vote on the consent calendar, and then I'll just pull this separately. Can I do that, Tony?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Jimenez?
Yes.
Jimenez, thank you. Peralez?
Yes.
Cohen?
Aye.
Roscoe?
Aye.
Davis?
Yes.
Esparza?
Yes.
Foley?
Aye.
Mahan?
Aye.
Jones?
Aye.
Ricardo?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Item 2.13 are changes to Chapter 12 of the Muni Code, extending campaign contribution fundraising periods for debt retirement. For the reasons I've stated and passed on the record, I don't support this proposal, and I know that there's no such thing as a perfect campaign finance law. They all have holes, but I'm concerned that this one particularly exacerbates the unseemly pattern we see, and certainly in other cities. It seems to exacerbate the pattern of encouraging donors to get on the winning side to avoid a sense of retribution by the office holder. And I know that's not to cast aspersions as to any of the current occupants of the council, but just to observe that in other cities that seems to be the pattern. And I would like to avoid that happening here in the city of San Jose. I also suspect that encouraging candidates to incur campaign debt through this will ultimately leave a fair number of small businesses holding the bag, particularly if those candidates don't prevail. They're going to have a hard time raising money, and that means local small businesses will be left with the result. And so I'm concerned about what this might do, and for that reason, I'm going to vote no. Councilmember Esparza.
Thank you, Mayor. And I appreciate you voting your conscience on this item. For me, all too often we hear the refrain that politics is a rich person's game, and that only the wealthy can run for office. If they have come from families with money or have trust funds and all those things, that we're so far removed from the people that we represent. And fortunately for us, I'm proud to live in a city where that is not true. And there are other cities, particularly a city to the north, right, where you have to have a lot of money. There's a lot of money at play in politics. There certainly is this year, but we are still a city where people from very humble beginnings can step up and run and win. And I have felt that in the past, our campaign rules, I think that while we strive to toe that line, as you mentioned, Mayor, that there's no perfect law. We've striven for that balance. But I have felt that in the past, we have gone too far, where we make it a little bit easier. People that have money, that have friends with a lot of money, have been able to have that sort of invisible hand tipped on the scales for them. And I don't see the 60 days as a radical change. I do think it just offers a little bit more opportunity for folks to be able to fundraise. And I recall some of our colleagues that did win, that had legal issues and other things that have really raised a lot of concerns for them, even for the winners. So with that, I'll move to approve 2.13.
Second. All right, motion and second. Councilmember Mahan?
Thanks, Mayor. I'll be quick. I've also raised concerns, same concerns that you raised, Mayor, about the perception of influence, undue influence, and the incentives that might be created. I do think, to Councilmember Esparza's point, we sometimes overly restrict and regulate our processes, which then ends up benefiting incumbents. And personally, as I mentioned in previous conversations, would be very supportive of extending the timeline on the other end to allow candidates to start earlier. Ultimately, to me, fundraising is, at least my experience, has been just making a heck of a lot of phone calls. And so more time is a good thing and probably helps challengers and first-time candidates to have more time. So I very much support that. My concern is that I'm not convinced that a candidate's going to be more effective at raising money after an election other than if they win. And so I think what you end up with is this sort of asymmetry where the candidate who wins now has the ability to pay off any debt they might have incurred, whereas those who lose suddenly have even, I would think, even less, there's even less incentive for folks to help them out at that point. And so I think that there's just, unfortunately, whether it's perception or reality, we're gonna see this play out as those who give will do so afterwards, specifically to the winner, which I just think ultimately is gonna reflect poorly on the city. So my conscience also is with, let's make it easier for first-timers and challengers to raise money earlier. Don't love the idea of us continuing to fundraise after elections. So I will also be voting no. Thank you.
Councilmember Cohen?
Yeah, thank you. And I know we had an extensive discussion on this before, and I appreciate Councilmember Esparza made said very well some of the points that I wanted to make. I mean, I think we want to make sure we have a level playing field for people to be able to be candidates. Obviously, public campaign financing, I believe, would be the best way to do that. But until we get to that point, we shouldn't be discouraging candidates who don't have wealth from being able to make last-minute fundraising efforts. And we talked a little bit about what the right length after the election is. I'm not sure what that is, but we give a couple of examples of where I think that this can make a difference. Candidates can talk to people right before the election, and I had examples in my race, and I'm sure others have too, where somebody says, I'm trying to get money, but we've got this deadline the day before the election, and people can promise something and we can't collect it. But while the candidates should be out door knocking and doing day-to-day things, having to chase money in the last few days before the election, to me, is not the right use of their time, especially those who are trying to do a grassroots campaign. There are cases where, because of last-minute changes in the campaign or last-minute things that come out about them or that they need to respond to, that the candidates have to make a decision. Can I afford to spend money on one last thing or not? And I could call somebody and say, could you help me out after the election, but I really need to just focus on my campaign right now. And I do believe that there would be help to candidates who end up in debt. And I think that some of these rules that we have end up tilting the scale a bit in terms of independent expenditures and other things that are able to have more of an effect on the voters than if candidates were able to control money more themselves. There really aren't any major cities out there who have rules as strict as ours as far as being able to retire debt. People were shocked when I told them, no, you can't help anybody retire debt in our city, because they do it for candidates, not just for other cities, but for state legislature, for county offices, every other office in this county, you can help people retire debt. I think we should align ourselves more with what the FPPC and FEC do, which is allowing people to retire debt. We did have a conversation at the last meeting about the time period before, and I think we agreed actually that it would be reasonable to extend that. I don't know, this didn't make it into this particular proposal, but if we want to make that amendment today about extending the front end as well, because it would help people raise money sooner and not have to spend as much time in the last month of the election raising money, I'm for that as well. But I think we ought to give this a try, because I think it will help candidates not have to be focused on fundraising in those last few weeks of the campaign. And I do believe that there are candidates who would end up who would end up being able to retire some debt if we had this option. And I think that we should have this option available to candidates in our city, just like in the other jurisdictions.
Councilmember Foley?
Thank you. Mayor, you mentioned, you made a statement that I'm having a hard time understanding the implications of that. And that is that small businesses may be left holding the bag.
Yeah.
Can you
Yeah, here's
tell me
what I
you mean by that?
If two candidates, let's say in a runoff in November, understand that, well, if I run up some campaign debt, I can always raise money after the election when I win, and let's say they both expect to win, not unusual, one of them is going to lose. And I think, as Councilor Mahan suggested, the one who loses isn't going to be able to raise much money because donors want to be on the winning side. So now you got a candidate that's got $30,000 in campaign debt, and who do they owe that to? Usually to local vendors. And those may be small businesses across the country. They may be in our own community. I'm guessing they tend to be more local. So that was my concern, is I think you're just going to have a lot of small businesses holding the bag.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for that explanation. That makes sense to me. I'm actually not opposed to this ordinance, at least giving it a try and see how it works. Other entities have an ability to raise funds to reduce their debt. I do agree with you and Councilmember Mahan that if someone doesn't win, it makes it harder for them to raise funds after to reduce their debt. But I think it's a tool that does help those who might have trouble fundraising towards the end of the campaign to help them put that last mailer out or do whatever they need to try and put their best foot forward in an election. So I'm going to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Frost.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for, I think that explanation, I was confused by that comment as well. I would say first off, I think it's important to remember that we are talking about just campaign-related debt. So I don't think the idea of somebody being able to come in and buy some further support or express further support for the winner of a campaign is truly going to be seen as I think the concern is. I absolutely think that for those that are, that have more challenges, whether it's raising money or contributing to their own campaign, coming up to the last minute, as Councilmember Cohen expressed, that tends to be where they're focusing is still trying to raise money. And I think that if we could shift that and allow for a little bit of that wiggle room, win or lose, it gives that person an opportunity to collect slightly after the actual election. So I don't necessarily foresee the same level of potential corruption or even inadvertent corruption to be had. I also don't necessarily agree that it will be small businesses. At least I don't have an extensive experience in campaigns, but from what I do have and from other campaigns that I have helped on, and my wife working for formerly a political consultant, the majority of debt is owed actually to that consultant or sort of the larger dollar versus potentially say the restaurant or smaller business or somebody you're using for print, where most of the time they're collecting on those amounts as you're going along. So I don't necessarily believe that would be the case either, that we'd somehow put a burden on small businesses. I think likely it'd be a burden on who it is that's helping running your campaign and helping you make those financial decisions. And I see that today. And this, I think, would give a little bit of a wiggle room and some space. And I do appreciate the date, and I would agree with Councilmember Cohen. I know we talked about this before, that we don't know what that magic number is. We want to put a limitation on it. I do agree with the earlier start, as Councilmember Mahan said. We talked about that before as well. Absolutely, I think the timing of when we start right at the holidays is a terrible time. So I absolutely think that an earlier start is and it would be beneficial to all candidates. I do want to point out though that I think that because there's a component here of sort of the funds raised versus the ability to invest. And Councilmember Esparza mentioned a little bit around not only an opportunity of who you may know, but traditionally, I think individuals that are more independently wealthy, they also happen to know others that may be more wealthy. And on the other side of the coin, if you are not more independently wealthy, you likely also don't have a lot of contacts that are independently wealthy. And I only mention this because last night I read a question, and Mayor, this is the PAC that you helped form, which I know you're not involved in anymore, but the Common Good PAC. And the question states, what is the maximum amount of personal money, either via loan or gift, that you foresee providing to your campaign if you believe that money means the difference between your victory and defeat? And even in the sense of that question, it makes it seem as though the amount of money that you're willing to invest in your own campaign is a signal of how much, right, how close you are to victory and how much you're willing to invest. I think the question should be, how much could you afford, right? And quite frankly, it's very, very different for different candidates, right, on how much they may be able to personally afford in their own campaign. And we've seen that at the national level all the way down, where if you are, again, independently wealthy, you may be able to seed your campaign with a tremendous amount of money. We saw that here recently in some of our elections throughout the county, where I think it puts somebody at an extreme disadvantage if you are somebody coming from lesser means, lower income community, and then you obviously don't have that similar Rolodex of being able to get money to your campaign. So I think this helps to address that as well, where already each one of us is going to start off on a different footing, and it shouldn't be a signal of how much you believe in yourself, say, based on how much you've invested into your own campaign. That's strictly a resource component of everybody's individual means. And so nonetheless, I think that this gives a good balance to those that are running campaigns that have lesser means, that'll be able to try and retire some of that debt, and it's really focused on that debt. And for that reason, I'm supportive of it.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, let's vote.
Did we do public comment on 2.13?
I don't think we have.
We did. I don't think we did.
Okay, let's go to public comment. Thank you.
Blair Beekman?
Hi, Blair Beekman here. Thanks very much for noticing my hand and allowing public comment for this item. Just good luck on how you work on this issue. Really nice words from everyone on this item. I was really impressed by the words of Councilperson Cohen and Perales, who, I'm coming from the point of view that real good luck to yourselves, that Councilperson Esparza also mentioned. How can we look towards long-term ideas of, good campaign finance reform, and that everybody can have a fair shot at running for office in the future? That can be a real important idea to how we're going to start the mayor election cycle in, I guess, 2024, starting at that time. A real good luck to San Jose, how to work on campaign finance reform, and really nice words from Councilperson Perales that, by working on it, it doesn't have to be affecting small businesses. We can find ways to do that. And good luck in those efforts. For people of low income to be able to run for office, that is so much the goal of what we should be working on in our lives. Thank you.
Brian?
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with what the other speaker said. Sorry, get his name right. But I just think, I know this is like a pie in the sky kind of thing, but I'd love to have city or quote unquote government funded balance, so there is no problem with the money. Because I think money, especially since the wise people up in Washington D.C. that make great decisions, did citizens first, and corporations got a soul. I mean, a lot of the rich folks don't think poor people have souls. Not a chance. We're not even worth it. And that gets clear, especially at the federal level. But money just is so corrosive. And I'm not saying anybody here, because I think you're all very honest people. It's just extremely frustrating. So anyways, I tend to agree with what the mayor also said too. Thank you for the time to vent.
Lalo?
Hi, good afternoon, folks. I apologize. I'm going to be speaking on item 10.1 because I did not get a choice while it was being discussed under consent. My name is Lalo.
This isn't the time. We'll be coming up next.
Yeah, that's next.
Thank you.
Yep.
Get back to council.
Okay, Councilmember Cohen?
Yeah, I mean, I heard an interest in adding the month up front by many people on the council, so I'll ask for an amendment. I mean, I was a seconder, but I'll ask for the amendment to, as part of this, to extend the fundraising period at the beginning by 30 days. At the front end, right, in addition to this back
On
end.
the front end. Yeah, I think that makes sense. I know that, it's a challenge because the end of the first reporting period is December 31st. And so for folks that aren't aware, we're not allowed to fundraise until 6 months before the election, which often puts it at a really weird time in December to go around and hit folks up for money. So yeah, that would make sense. I'd agree to that. And to the point that Councilmember Mann and the mayor made about starting a little bit earlier, I think that resonates. Thank you.
And that's okay with the seconder? That was you. Okay. I guess that means it's okay. All right. That's the motion. Any other comments? Let's vote.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Roscoe,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Esparza,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
No.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
No.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're on to item 10.1, which is land use consent. I know there was a speaker who wanted to speak, so let's go to public comment first.
Lalo,
Okay, folks, good afternoon. I apologize jumping in a little early. My name is Lalo Mendes, and I work with Catalyze SV, and a couple of our members just gave some comment regarding the DuPont Station project, and I am here in both my capacity as development project specialist, but also as a resident of downtown San Jose. These are the kind of projects that we want to see built, especially because there's such a huge need for housing, market rate housing, and affordable housing. So I am here to hopefully, ask you to vote for this project, yet also consider including additional ground floor level commercial space, since the amount of residents could potentially benefit from a retail that directly serves your needs. In addition, I will ask you to consider to lower the parking ratios and create more spaces for people and the residents and their children who will be living there, as well as the applicant to perhaps provide bus passes and transit passes for the residents. So those are some of the recommendations that our members want to see, and additionally, perhaps the inclusion of amenities. We know that segregated amenities are certainly not what we want to see, and folks who live in the affordable housing building should also have access to the market rate and also those kinds of amenities. So I would ask you to please support the project, and with those considerations from our members. Thank you.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. I didn't hear exactly how you described for public comment on the previous item. I thought you asked kind of as for the item itself and not all the remaining consent calendar items. I really had an important consent calendar item to speak to. May I have time to speak on that now?
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. You had an item about flag raising and proclamation to Norman Mineta. And I just wanted to give my 2 cents at this time that thank you for his years of service to San Jose, and an overall, just a thank you for his work. I did not understand his work enough, but I could feel his influence always in how I would work in San Jose. And I think for me, the most important story that I have of understanding his work is that he testified after the events of 9/11. I think that in one of the first testimonials, the first testifying process about what happened to re-explain the events of 9/11, to start the commission process. His words were just simple, direct, and honest. I mean, he didn't go over the top about anything, but it was after his presentation and testimonial, there was a real shift in how we started talking about the events of 9/11 and what happened that day. And I think it's a commitment, it's a honor in how he works and thinks and practices, that I hope we all take lessons from. That I think, and we do have to better understand the future of what exactly 9/11 was, and how we teach our children what exactly happened on that day and who was at fault. And we do that, we build our healing future. And Norman Mineta, in the gentleman that he was, set the course for that. And I hope we can continue those sort of efforts. That's what I have learned. Thank you.
Back to council.
Back to council. Councilmember Carrasco, do you want to pull one of these items? Okay, Councilmember Carrasco is going to pull item A. Go ahead.
I just wanted to mention for A, it's a target on Capitol and McKee. We haven't had any complaints from the residents or any issues. I usually, struggle with the licenses on the east side of San Jose because we are oversaturated in different census counts, but this one is a full-blown Target store. And so I'm going to go ahead and move the consent item, and
good with this one.
Second.
And I agree with the sentiment myself. I always oppose them except when there's a full service grocery store, which Target does offer at that location, according to members of my staff who frequent it. So, all right. On that, do we need to take that separately? Was there any desire to pull the other item on consent? No? Okay. Councilor McCluskey, you want to take them together?
Yeah, we'll take those together.
Okay, and that's
Is
okay
that fine
the
with me?
seconder? All right, let's vote on the consent calendar.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Roscoe,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Esparza,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye. All right, we're on to the report of the city manager. Jennifer?
Yes, I have a report today. It is my absolute pleasure to share that Happy Hollow Park and Zoo has just been accredited by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, or AZA, for another 5-year cycle. Happy Hollow has now been continuously accredited since 1993, and that's nearly 30 years. AZA is the primary accrediting body for zoos and aquariums with standards that are rigorous, scientific, and performance-based. Their accreditation represents the gold standard in animal care and welfare, conservation, and education. To give you some perspective on their accreditation, there are approximately 2,800 animal exhibitors licensed by the United States Department of Agriculture, and less than 10% of those are AZA accredited. I'm very proud to say that we are one of them. The accreditation process includes an extensive written application, a 2-day site visit by AZA inspectors, and a formal hearing in front of the AZA Accreditation Commission. This accreditation ensures public trust and professional recognition for Happy Hollow and paves the way for access to funding opportunities, participation in species survival plans, and coordinated animal transfers between AZA facilities. With approximately 140 animals representing 55 species and nearly 500,000 visitors passing through Happy Hollow's gates every year, this is a very impressive accomplishment. I'd like to thank the Happy Hollow Foundation and the Kelly Park Rangers for participating and supporting Happy Hollow with the AZA inspection team. Finally, I'd like to congratulate John Cicerelli and the Parks, Recreation, and Neighborhood Services Department and recognize the entire Happy Hollow team for this impressive achievement. I believe we have a few people in the audience from Happy Hollow. Is that correct? If you could stand and be recognized, please. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mayor, can we have Red Panda attend these future city council meetings for future accreditations? Could we make that a thing?
As long as the panda can wear a mask. Oh, look at that. Danny the Dragon lives on. Yes. Nice work, John. Yeah, thanks, everybody. Thanks for your great work. And I know there are thousands and thousands of kids who are grateful but don't know how grateful they are. All right. Sound like a parent. Okay. Yeah. Okay, we're on now to item 3.3, which is the San Jose Spotlight Public Records Act request appeal. We don't have a presentation. Let's go to the public.
I'm going to start with Ramona.
Uh-huh.
who is the
Sure.
appellant.
Good afternoon, Mayor Liccardo, Vice Mayor Jones, and members of the City Council. My name is Ramona Guargas. Oh, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Ramona Guargas, and I am the co-founder and CEO of San Jose Spotlight, the city's independent nonprofit news organization. I'm here today to urge you to approve San Jose Spotlight's Public Records Act request appeal and to waive the so-called attorney-client privilege the city asserts to withhold emails related to the mayor's nonprofit, Solutions San Jose, now called Solutions Silicon Valley. By way of background, our news organization in May 2021 requested copies of communications related to Solutions Silicon Valley. We believe these records are of public interest since the agency appears to be lobbying on issues related to the public's business, including water rate hikes, reopening schools, and housing policy. We received a blanket denial from the city attorney's office, who claimed all the communications were subject to attorney-client privilege, despite City Attorney Nora Freeman telling us in an email that she did not provide legal advice regarding solutions Silicon Valley to the mayor's office. We appeal to two different legislative bodies, the Rules and Open Government Committee and the Board of Fair Campaign and Political Practices. Both are identified as remedies outlined in Title 12 for those who are dissatisfied with the city's denial of public records. Yet both bodies were asked to make a decision on our appeal without seeing the withheld emails in question. This loophole in the city's appeals process strips these bodies of their authority and independence, and in the end, the public loses and is kept in the dark. Lastly, a privilege log produced by the city revealed the withheld emails were sent and received during business hours on a Friday. This raises questions about whether the mayor's office is using public city resources on his nonprofit group. Please waive the privilege to release these improperly withheld emails. I also hope that you take a recommendation from Hanson Bridget to amend Title 12 to clarify the board's role in reviewing privileged records. Thank you for your time and deliberation.
Okay, going on to the rest of the public, I have Catherine.
I'm calling to support the spotlight. I believe that our city needs to be more transparent. Thank you very much.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, thank you. Blair Beekman here. I think for this item, I don't know the full depth of this issue. I'm just better learning about it. For me, I'm just thankful that in the very least that this item is being brought to the public forum and that it's become a public issue. I think the Spotlight is a real great newspaper. They've done some really impressive work. And I think we're at a time that we're really considering what exactly is the role of journalism and its importance to our lives and what good journalism can be. You know, if it's journalism is clear and helps instruct ourselves, those are two really important, amazingly important functions that journalism can have in describing our democracy and our community. And to do that well, it adds such an important character to a city and a community. So I thank you very much that you're making this a public item and that we're trying to work this out in public. I think you've done some really interesting work on the issue of the future of body camera footage. And if someone who it needs the body camera footage with a criminal complaint that they have already registered, they should have the right to that body camera footage. And you're working on that openly and publicly as a city. And you've been doing that at Rules and Open Government in the past. Just a tremendous thank you that you try to make these items public for public understanding and comprehension, and that we work on these ideas as a full open process. Thank you.
Back to council.
Thank you. Thank you to members of the community who spoke. I think Ms. Guargas raised a concern about having to go to two separate bodies that each basically said, we can't look at the emails. And I'd like to at least clear the air on that issue. My understanding, Nora, is that the privilege is held by the council and only the majority of the council can waive an attorney-client privilege. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so if there's going to be a waiver of the privilege, it has to go to the full council. It can't go to a commission. It can't go to a committee.
Correct. And we did advise of that.
You advised Ms. Guargas of that in
Yes.
writing?
Yes.
Okay. And I think I heard you make reference to one letter. Was there two letters or one letter?
There was a letter after rules, and there was a letter before the hearing at the appeal to the board.
Okay. So I know there's an effort to inform the applicant or the appellant that the way to get attorney-client privilege waived was to go to the full council. This is the body that can do that. I've submitted a memorandum to recommend that we waive. I also believe we should probably change the procedures so we explicitly have all appeals involving attorney-client privilege go directly to the council so people aren't wasting their time on commissions and committees that can't make the decision. So I hope that we can sort of fix that to make it easier for everybody to understand exactly where they need to go to get a decision. Councilmember Kraska? Oh, okay, all right. Is there a comment or a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And that motion is aligned with the recommendation I made, is that right?
Yes,
Councilmember?
to,
Okay,
to accept your memo.
great, thank you. Councilmember Cohen?
First, just a clarification on the motion. Was does that include then the recommendation to come back with a change in procedures? You want to include that in the motion now so that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep, and it's okay with the seconder? Okay.
And
Yes.
oh, sorry. And I just wanted to also just make sure it's clear that, I mean, these should all be handled on a case-by-case basis, and there's no precedent set by doing this in this case. I mean, I think it's important to have that confidentiality for the council, and not to, have this be some, a precedent that future requests are going to be automatically approved. They should be handled like this one was handled with an appeal to the council.
Agreed, thank you, Councilmember. Okay, let's vote.
Mayor, I had my hand raised virtually, if I could
Oh,
just
I'm
ask
sorry,
a
forgive me, Councilmember, I
Oh,
should have been looking on Zoom. Go ahead,
No,
Councilmember.
it's okay. I think I might be the only one on here today. The question was in relation to a reference made by Ramona that I guess their attorneys recommended a change to a particular title of the municipal code. I'm wondering if Nora has had a chance to, or if she can enlighten me as to, and maybe enlighten us, because I don't recall exactly what she's referring to or what the recommendation was. Nora, did you have a chance, or Spotlight's attorney?
Councilmember, I'm sorry, you cut out in part of that question, so I'm not sure what it was you were asking.
Can you hear me now, Nora? I'm moving
Yeah.
around. Okay, the question was, Ramona alluded to a recommendation made by the attorneys representing Spotlight as it relates to a change to, I think it was Title 12. I forget exactly what part of the municipal code it was, but do you, are you familiar with that request or that recommendation from her attorneys?
Thank you, Councilmember. I think she was referring to a memo that was provided to the Board of Fair Campaign and Political Practices by their attorney and investigators. And that didn't necessarily contain a recommendation to change the status of the board or what could be reviewed by the board. That memo, in fact, said that that the council holds the privilege and only the council can review the documents and make a decision. What we would do is change the municipal code a bit so that appeals with respect to documents that have been withheld because of the attorney-client privilege could come to council directly. Rather, you can always come to council. You don't have to go through all the steps, but the other the appeal to the city's records manager, the appeal to the rules committee, the appeal to the board are all options under our code now. And we would change the muni code just to provide that you can only or should only go to council if you want a waiver of the attorney-client privilege.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to better understand that. And if Ramona's still on the line, Ramona, is that what you understood the recommendation to be? And I'm just trying to get clarity as to what that was, just to make sure that.
Hi, Council. Yes, hi, Councilmember Jimenez. Thank you for the question. So the city attorney is correct that the memo came from Hanson Bridget, which is the independent attorney for the Board of Fair Campaign and Political Practices, not San Jose Spotlight's attorneys. But the memo, while it did support the city's assessment that only the city council can waive this attorney-client privilege, it did recommend that you explore amending Title 12 to clarify the role of the Board of Fair Campaign and Political Practices to allow them to review privileged records without waiving, the privilege. In other words, allowing them to also view these emails as another step in this process so that there is another independent pair of eyes who are able to look at these records and make an assessment on whether or not they are in fact privileged and whether or not they should be released.
Okay, does that so that seems to make sense to me. I haven't really thought about what my opinion is on that, but Nora, do you foresee that that's going to be part of the scope of the work you all are going to do as it relates to making some changes so that way this is clarified in the ways we deem appropriate?
The intention, council member, would be to, I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
No, go ahead.
The intention, council member, would be to clarify the municipal code so that it was clear that the council had which holds the privilege, has, any appeals on an attorney-client privilege would come to council. We are not, there is a sentence that while one could imagine an amendment to Title 12, we don't think the law supports extending a review of attorney-client privilege documents to anyone other than the council, and that's our intention in terms of amending the Muni Code.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? All right, let's vote then on the motion.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Crosco, Davis,
Yes.
Esparza,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Liccardo.
Aye.
I didn't catch the second on that motion, by the way.
I think it was Vice Mayor.
Joe, got it. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, we're on to item 3.5, which is take-home vehicles audit report. Welcome, Joe.
I want to note that Crosco just voted yes on the last motion.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Joe Royce, City Auditor. I'm here to present our audit of take-home vehicles. Improved controls can better ensure compliance with city policies. I don't have a presentation, just a verbal report today. So the City of San Jose has a fleet of nearly 2,700 vehicles, including transport, special purpose, and public safety vehicles. City policy allows departments to assign take-home vehicles for after-hour emergency responses by employees on standby duty assignments that require special purpose or police and fire vehicles. Other requirements for being eligible for a take-home vehicle include having a minimum of 24 annual callbacks for after-hour emergency responses, having a one-way commute of 30 miles or less, and being able to respond to a callback within 45 minutes. In 2021, the City Manager's Office authorized 222 take-home vehicles to 238 city employees. The Police Department had the most take-home vehicles, 145 in total. 6 other departments had employees assigned take-home vehicles. This included Public Works, Department of Transportation, Environmental Services Department, Parks, Recreation, Neighborhood Services, the Fire Department, and the Office of Emergency Management. The objective of this audit was to assess current practices for take-home vehicles. We had one finding that clarifying policies and streamlining processes can lead to better management of take-home vehicles. In 2021, commuting mileage for take-home vehicles totaled an estimated 1.6 million miles, and using the Internal Revenue Service standard mileage rate of 56 cents per mile, this translates to over $870,000 in commuting costs. Many city employees assigned take-home vehicles, however, did not meet the policy guidelines. We found that more than a third of employees assigned take-home vehicles had not reached the required number of callbacks. Over 20% exceeded the one-way commute threshold, and over 60% were not on standby duty assignments under the terms of agreements with the city's employee bargaining units. Estimated commuting costs for these vehicles totaled around $500,000. It should be noted, exceptions from the requirements are allowable, though the process for seeking exceptions was not always followed. Public Works Department is tasked with administering the take-home vehicle policy. However, they have little enforcement authority. Also, the current manual authorization process is time-consuming and prone to errors. It also does not account for changes to vehicle assignments during the year. During the audit, Public Works has begun exploring an electronic option to streamline that approval process. Next, there are currently no policy guidelines to monitor for potential personal use outside of commuting, though the city has installed telematics, which is an electronic system to track vehicle locations, performance, and other data. on many take-home vehicles, which could provide that opportunity. Lastly, in very limited circumstances, community costs may be a taxable fringe benefit. However, the city may not have identified all potentially affected employees. The report has 5 recommendations to better ensure compliance with city policy, update the policy to clarify roles and responsibilities, including how to track callbacks, conduct required cost-benefit analyses, and monitor for personal use, developing an electronic approval process to better manage take-home vehicles, and developing a process to accurately report taxable fringe commuting benefits when appropriate. I'd like to thank the Public Works Department, the Finance Department, and the City Attorney's Office for their time, information, insight, and cooperation during the audit process. The administration has reviewed the information report, and their response is shown in the yellow pages, and also in the supplemental memo that Public Works submitted. I ask you to accept the report, and I'll turn it over to, I believe, Walter Lynn from the Public Works Department for the administration's response.
Thank you very much, Joe. Mayor Liccardo, members of the City Council, Walter Lynn, Deputy Director for the Public Works Department. I would also like to thank Joe and his team for the audit process. This was very efficient and productive in terms of how we're running the fleet management program as related to vehicle take-home vehicle program. The administration agrees with the 5 recommendations. We have greenlit 4 of the 5. One of the recommendations is regarding the telematics program, and that does require a budget action for us to move forward. But we do agree with all 5 recommendations in coordination between Public Works and the Finance Department.
Thanks, Walter. Thanks, Joe. Let's go to the public.
I have no hands up. Oh, a hand just went up. Blair Beekman.
Hi. This item came to Rules and Open Government a few weeks ago. Just a quick reminder that the importance of electric vehicle use, as important as it is to our lives, that there can be other means of transportation in our future. And I a little silly for this item, but just a hopeful reminder, hopefully. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. First, thanks, Joe, to you and your team for the audit. Appreciate both of these audits were particularly succinct, which is, you have a grateful council for that. Maybe I've been around here too long, but it just seems like Groundhog Day, there's always an audit on take-home vehicles. For whatever reason, whenever I look at the agenda, but I know that's not true. Anyway, this is, I know has been an ongoing pain point. I'm trying to figure out why we're still having a lot of the challenges. It seems to be a common theme between this audit and the next one we're about to consider is around a lack of automation, a lack of digitization. We've got a lot of manual paper. And I guess, you know, whether it's Walter or Jennifer, I guess I'm just trying to struggle to figure out why are we relying so much on paper still? Given, are we having problems with, is it the software implementation? What's holding us back?
No, thank you, Mayor Liccardo, for the question. That is one of the recommendations for a process improvement as well. This is something that the Fleet Division has been considering also for an improved process. Currently, it is quite labor intensive, gathering all the data manually, submitting the forms manually as well too, and then having the city manager ultimately approve of the process through a manual memorandum format. We are looking within the next several months to change that into an electronic format. We are going to change it into a process for all data collection, approval, review for the exceptions, et cetera, through that process, as well as to implement a more frequent review of the data. So instead of doing annually once a year, this will give departments and Public Works an opportunity to review what is being considered, any changes during a calendar year, and making those approvals as we go along instead of just once annually. This will help better the program and the process by doing it more efficiently through the electronic means. And this is something that we agree as a recommendation.
And if I could just add, we started a business process automation effort during the pandemic that we have a long way to go, but we have been prioritizing things, and with our new IT director who's taken over for Rob Lloyd, this is a continued priority. But there's this and many other areas that we're working on, and we're going to make big strides on to save staff time, be more efficient, And that was one maybe slight good thing that came out of the pandemic. It forced us to prioritize and start automating, because we need to continue to modernize.
Great. Well, for a very thinly staffed city hall, I know being able to avoid all that excessive amount of work to collate or to gather data in paper form, I know that will be a great time savings for everybody. So look forward to that. It seems as though some of the timelines on the responses are, well, all of them are about a year off. And I guess, Walter, maybe could you help me understand a little better what you think holds us back from being able to implement some of these things more quickly? I know that overwhelmingly these are folks who are not working in the public works department. Actually, most of them are in the police department. So I know there's a challenge there, but help me understand more.
Yeah, good question, Mayor Liccardo. So many of the recommendations require the policy adjustments and changes as well. It'll take us some time to coordinate how we're going to review that process and get that passed as a council approval for that policy. There's also a past fleet audit as well that required some policy changes, and we want to consolidate everything together with one council approval instead of piecemealing it over time. And that, as such, we're looking at potentially upwards of a year, but hopefully much sooner than that.
Okay. And then on pages 16, 17 of the audit, it talks about challenges in the police department, since that's clearly where the biggest challenge is. And there's certainly ambiguity in my mind, and I'm guessing in the officers' minds, about what they're allowed to do, because they don't mean the requirements under the agreement with the POA to be on standby. But the reality is they're all on standby, aren't they? Don't they all get called back and told they got to fill shifts and they just got to do it?
So thanks for the question. So under the terms of the agreement, they're not technically on standby. This was a conversation we had with representatives from the police during the audit. And on your question is they could be called back. But it really is a policy question that, right now there is a process to seek exceptions, to seek approval for exceptions, not always being followed.
Yeah.
So we're again, going back to what Walter was saying, hopefully by automating this process, we can elevate that. One other piece that's important to note is in the past, Public Works has been kind of tasked with managing this program, and it usually has been fallen on an analyst level. Well, an analyst is not going to be in a position to question a department head from another department if they're making some assignment. So hopefully, part of the first recommendation is about aligning those roles and responsibilities. So if there is an exception from whether it's police department or another department, that we have a process that gets those exceptions to the right level, to the right approval level. Then someone in the city manager's office could be reviewing the business case or the emergency case in this regard for an officer or someone else, and aligning those responsibilities so the people who can make those decisions to provide the approval for those exceptions are at the right level. So right now it's kind of in that period where someone at an analyst level is tasked with making a call, and it's probably not an appropriate level. So that's part of the recommendation, trying to get that process cleaned up.
Yeah. And forgive me for my many questions. Just have two more. I promise I'll stop. It's just that when you see these audits, as many times as I have, it makes it scratch your head. If the it looks like the rough calculation of whatever cost for commuting is absorbed currently by the city is perhaps inappropriately or not sufficiently doesn't qualify for take-home vehicle use. It's about $500,000 worth of expenditure, it looks like, over the last year or so. And I guess my question would be, if our processes were perfect and we were just using exemptions, I'm guessing, for some of these employees, and in some cases maybe folks really did qualify, but they didn't fill out the right form or whatever it might be, would we be looking at $500,000 of savings, or is the reality that the savings would be a whole lot less and we'd just be following our procedures?
So that's a great question. So a couple things to think about there. One is, as I mentioned, there is a process that hasn't always been followed. One of it is departments, if there's going to be an exemption in some cases, are required to do a cost-benefit analysis to say, should we do a reimbursement or should we allow the vehicle to be taken home? That's not happening. And so again, this is, during the audit, Public Works put together some methodology to ship out to departments saying, hey, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And I'm not sure exactly how the response yet, but that'll be part of that, hopefully part of this electronic process is having departments actually go through that exercise of understanding what the cost element is. And then from a budgetary savings, the biggest place to see it is actually on the replacement cost. So especially if the public safety vehicles are on a certain cycle. I think the motorcycles, it's 60,000 miles.
Yeah.
And what we saw is the motorcycles in 2021 had about 170,000 miles in commuting, which is almost 3 full motorcycles, the life of 3 motorcycles. So that's how it's going to be hit on the budget, because it's going to come out of the department's budget to replace those vehicles down the road if we're speeding up that replacement process.
Right. Okay, last question, I promise. Whose job is it to fix this? Walter can't tell police department what to do. So I guess, is there somebody in the city manager's office who said, this is my job, we're fixing it, or?
Yeah, this is normally would come under the assistant city manager. I've worked on, when I was assistant city manager, I worked on some of these take-home audits. In fact, I had asked the auditor to act specifically look at this issue, which I appreciate that, and Joe, for doing that for me. So it will be in the manager's office at the assistant city manager level.
Okay, great, thanks. All right, any other questions? I guess I had them all. Thanks, everybody, for your patience. We'll entertain a motion.
Move to accept the audit.
Second.
Let's vote.
Sorry, Jimenez,
Yes.
Morales, Cohen,
Aye.
Roscoe,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Esparza,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Licardo,
Aye.
Morales.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, item 3.6, the citywide grant monitoring audit report. Joe's still here.
Yes, I'm just give Julie a moment to come down. So good afternoon again, Joe Royce, City Auditor. I'm here with our citywide grant management audit. Improved coordination can increase federal grant opportunities and standardized grant administration. The City of San Jose receives funding from a variety of sources to support city services, including federal, state, and local grants. The majority of the city's grant funding is from federal agencies. In fiscal year 2020-2021, the city spent $247 million from federal awards, most of which were a result of the almost $174 million in COVID-19 relief funds. Multiple departments receive and manage federal awards, and each department is responsible for each step of the grant lifecycle, including submitting grant applications, implementing programs under the terms of the grant agreements, closing out grants, and working with federal agencies who may conduct audits for grant compliance. The objective of this audit was to review and assess citywide management of federal awards across departments. I want to point out that we did not review individual grants in depth. We were interested in how departments manage the awards broadly, what resources they have dedicated to the function, and what systems or procedures they have in place to manage these awards. The audit was requested by the administration as the city's external financial auditors have expressed concerns about internal controls around financial reporting related to federal awards. We had one finding: better coordination is needed to improve management and administration of federal grant awards. As I mentioned, the city receives millions of dollars of federal awards, and the city's external financial auditors have repeatedly raised concerns about the city's financial reporting process for these awards. In addition, our office and federal auditors have raised concerns around the tracking and documentation of federal expenditures in the past. We found that the city's decentralized grant management structure creates risks in identifying and managing grants. Departments vary in both how they identify and manage federal awards and the level of resources available for managing them. Few departments had standard procedures, and departments generally did not provide regular training for staff to properly manage awards. Other large California cities have similar decentralized grant management structure. However, to assist staff Many have developed citywide procedures or guidelines related to applying for and managing awards and/or provide regular training. And although the city has begun to provide centralized or cross-departmental assistance with new staff in the finance department and an informal cross-departmental working group, more can be done. Lastly, because indirect costs are generally allowable expenses, the city is required to have its indirect cost allocation plan approved by its federal cognizant agency and in some cases a state granting agency. Because the plan has changed since the last time it had been approved, the city should seek approval for the most up-to-date plan from the appropriate federal or state agencies to ensure indirect costs can continue to be reimbursable in the future. The report had just 3 recommendations. To better manage and coordinate federal grant management, the city should develop citywide guidance or procedures and training around the different stages of grant management, formalize the grants working group as a forum for interdepartmental coordination, and request approval for the city's current indirect cost allocation plan from the relevant federal or state agencies. I'd like to thank the Finance Department, City Manager's Office of Administration, Policy, and Intergovernmental Relations, City Manager's Budget Office, the City Attorney's Office, and all of the other departments we spoke with during the audit for their time, information, insight, and cooperation during the process. The administration has reviewed the report, the information report, and the responses shown in the yellow pages. Happy to answer any questions. I'll turn it over to Julia for the administration's response.
Thank you, Joe. This was quite a timely report given the fact that we're receiving hundreds of millions of dollars of federal grant money right now. So we're very supportive of the recommendations that the city auditor brings forward. We've stood up a limit-dated temporary grants management team in the Finance Department Accounting Division under Rick's leadership. And so some of the recommendations that we've yellow lighted are based on the fact that we're hoping to have that work group permanently funded through the fiscal year 23-24 budget process so that we continue to provide the appropriate leadership grants wide and the training and policy development. So with that, we're available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Let's go to the public.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks for this item. Along with subsidy issues, at least for this issue, just very much of a thank you that you're trying to make your grant monitoring process open and accountable. It's nice to hear this item. I think that it can be of help to the future of the subsidy process that we're just beginning to understand, and that the monies that will be available from the state level in our future to have those same openness and accountability practices with the subsidy process, to share that with the public that you are with this item, that'll be great. And that's really doing our good practices and our better future. And so thanks a lot for this item, and good luck in these efforts.
Back to council.
Thank you. Councilmember Foley.
Thank you. And Joe, thank you for your report. As always, very thorough and enlightening. I've always had questions or given COVID and the hundreds of millions of dollars we received from the CARES Act and every other funding mechanism and the funds, federal funds that we receive over time, I've been concerned about accountability and how whether we're using the funds, how we are supposed to and be using the funds, and while I believe we are, it's the accounting back to the federal government. So I have a couple questions for you. And in reading the report, the grant comes in and then we may assign it to the subrecipients or contractors. Is that correct?
Yes.
So then how do we hold them accountable and make sure that they're complying with the purpose of the grant?
That's a great question. So ultimately, departments are staff within the departments are tasked with monitoring that. So some departments, some departments have procedures in place for things like site visits, for desk reviews, for reviewing invoices that come in. One of the concerns we've had, especially in recent years, is the resources available for that. For example, Housing Department has resources, has procedures in place for a lot of monitoring. they've had to bring in outside help to help with monitoring because of the influx of dollars over the last couple of years. So it really is, again, it's tasked with, or the individual departments and staff within the departments are tasked with that monitoring. And there's just different levels of maturity across the organization in terms of having those systems in place.
So you mentioned housing, and that's the one area of concern, not the only area, but they're the ones who are getting hundreds of millions of dollars in for homeless housing and many other components, and not just COVID related, but pre-COVID and throughout that from HUD. So and your report mentions that they are having difficulty meeting their requirements of on-site monitoring. So do we have a process in place? Maybe this is a question for Julia or Jennifer to make sure that our departments who are requesting grants and then forwarding them to subrecipients and contractors to make sure that they're complying and we're putting some timeline in place so that we're not penalized? And which is my next question, what happens if we don't meet our reporting requirements?
I could start with part of it because I think that, the question of, again, it is with the departments to do that monitoring. In the influx, so there is, Julia mentioned the team that's been stood up in finance is working on some of those pieces. And I think Julia or Rick could probably answer that piece better. But it is upon the departments to do that monitoring, to follow up, to make sure those site visits are occurring. I mentioned that some of the site visits. I go back to an audit we did in 2020 where we looked at the influx of dollars to the housing department. At that time, the monitoring hadn't been occurring, partially because of the COVID restrictions. They couldn't do that, so they're trying to do monitoring in some other form. So they weren't doing the sort of desk reviews and some of the other things. So they put in some interim procedures, kind of manage that. But again, they did seek outside help to help with some of that monitoring. And the city also has sought outside help with Ernst & Young and to help with some of the monitoring for COVID-related expenditures. I don't know if Julie wants to bring up the work that Alice's team is doing.
Yes, and also as part of the annual audit process that MGO undertakes, they do a single audit, which is a review of all the federal grant audit program, and they do testing with respect to the subrecipients. So there is an independent review in that respect, and we just finished the fiscal year 21 single audit, and there were no findings in that at all in the single audit, but in that area specifically. So it is an area that hopefully if we could stand this team up as they develop policies and procedures, at least we can provide some baseline for departments about how to do good subrecipient monitoring. And we also need to be cognizant of the fact with all these hundreds of millions of dollars of federal dollars coming in, there will be audits from the federal government. And so that it really behooves us to make sure we get all of the work done up front, because it's a whole lot harder to chase the reports backwards in time as opposed to collecting them up front. And that's part of the effort that's underway in the group that Alice is overseeing in the accounting division. So we're hopeful that we'll help departments be successful in this area moving forward as well.
Thank you. I appreciate hearing that with the single audit, there were no findings. That's good. That's good to hear. Does that mean we have not received any notice of noncompliance?
We haven't, but we have received notice that we will be undergoing a desk audit from the federal government. So that's when they just come in and do like a desk review. It's not a deep review, but it's a kind of a cursory review to see, do you have the right policies and procedures in place? And we're actually happy that they're coming in because this is a good point to come in. So if they see any weaknesses, we can fix them right away and make sure that we move forward in a productive way.
So going forward, yeah, I think this report is really good and sheds a light on the need to account for the dollars and how we're spending them. But there's also a question about in-kind or expenses that we're indirect costs. Are we collecting enough through the grant to offset the indirect costs that we're allowed to under the terms of the grant? Or are we leaving money on the table?
Rick Bruno, Deputy Director of Finance. I think in most cases, a case by case, depending upon the grantor and the award. Sometimes they'll allow indirect costs. So if they do, we'll include our indirect costs with that as part of the application process. If they don't allow the indirect costs, or if we've already met the ceiling with our direct costs, then we won't apply indirect costs to the grant.
Okay, so we're making sure that we are collecting everything we can through indirect costs if it's allowed.
Yes. That's
Okay.
correct.
Is there anything you need from council as far as resources to make sure that this is implemented? It sounds like this is another technology issue that we need to resolve to make the monitoring process easier. Is there anything else?
I don't think so much on the technology side. It's more on the policies and procedures side that our team needs to focus on developing those, working across the city so that we can roll them out to the departments. In terms of the staffing that we have currently, their main focus is on the documentation and reporting on all the federal grants that we've received. That's their primary focus, but they're also going to be working on the policies and procedures in parallel. I think we'll be able to develop them by the June of next year, which is when those limited positions are funded through. And next year through the budget process, we'll be looking to request for some of those positions to be made permanent so that the continuous maintenance of those policies and continuous training can continue as there's turnover within the departments.
Great, that's really important to hear, and I'm glad to hear that really read the results of this audit and that it's being implemented within a year. And in government work, that seems quick. But it is timely and necessary because failure to do so, we'd have to return the funds, wouldn't we? And that means we'd have to get them back from the contractors or subagents to get them back, which would be problematic. So we need to make sure we're complying. With that, I will move to accept the report.
Second. Motion and second. Councilmember Esparza?
Thank you. And so I just wanted to thank Joe and the team for working on the audit. So similar to Councilmember Foley's questions, we had some discussions in CED around the need for greater accountability with our grants, not just for us, but for the subrecipients. So similar to Councilmember Foley, you answered the questions about subs. What about grants that cover multiple years? How are we providing that oversight, that follow-up around the multi-year grants?
Again, it's going to go back to the departments to manage those awards in terms of getting the approvals, implementing the award, whether it's passing funds through to a subrecipient or providing the service directly for a contractor. But ultimately, it's going to be up to those departments to manage that. Now, there's a lot of steps in there. There's obviously the invoicing, the monitoring, all of that piece. There's the federal reporting for single audit purposes. There's potential reporting to a granting agency. And again, it's really up to the departments to kind of manage those.
Whoops, there we go. There's the audio. Okay, I'm going to support the motion and accepting the report. I do want to thank the city manager for proposing some staffing that I think is needed. I know that when we had this discussion last year around the BEST grants, and the need to provide oversight. It really revolved around staffing. And I think that this is an issue. Pick a department in the city, and we're running into this issue and a lot of things, but we have to have this kind of oversight and accountability. So, because we're accountable to our residents, and that's ultimately what we're all here to do, is provide those resources and support to our residents. Thank you to the administration for putting that in the in the budget. All right, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks. Question, I guess, for Julie or Jennifer, whoever would like to answer it. Appreciate the good work on this audit, and I think everybody recognizes the challenges. I think Councilmember Esparza articulated them well around staffing. But it seems as though other cities have made more of a push to centralize many of these tasks and operations. And in the response from staff on page 2, it describes 7 limited dated positions to develop citywide administrative guidelines and procedures and training materials for accounting, tracking, closeout, preparing for audits, etc. And I guess the question I have, particularly as you look at other cities and just intuitively, why wouldn't we also be thinking about some centralization for, and you guys may already be doing this, so just please let me know, but for the actual grant writing and for compliance, just knowing that, particularly dealing with the federal government and so forth, having somebody who's really savvy and understanding how to get through all that bureaucracy would seem to be really helpful. It seems as though it's a bit of every department for themselves, and I'm wondering why we wouldn't want to centralize more of these functions.
Well, I think we've looked at that in the past over my career, but we haven't looked at that in any recent years to my recollection. I think it's game. And Julia, so when we're looking at this, let's take a harder look at that. I know there's been issues where there might be subject matter expertise in the departments, correct?
Sure.
To that help with that, but there may be some something to, taking some core piece of this and centralizing it. But let's take a look at it as we're going through these administrative responsibilities and see what best practices look like.
Yeah, I mean, we can definitely do that. I mean, when you're in a situation where you're doing subrecipient monitoring, obviously having the person closest to that grant process and doing that is better.
Yeah.
But with with all of the COVID relief money that's come in, I mean, we are centralizing the record retention issue. So that's a key, because if you get audited, it's all about the paper, right? It's a virtual paper. It's all stored electronically these days. But so it's important for us to make sure that the records are good from the get-go. So that's where, our team in finance has really been helping. And I think also in developing the policies and procedures, we can create some core checklists that will be really helpful for those that are closest to the grant actually being delivered. But then there are some grants that maybe are better a little bit higher up the food chain, so to speak, overall in a centralized management. So we'll look at that in coordination across the organization.
Okay, thanks. And yeah, appreciate your points, particularly about, compliance really being best monitored by people who know what's going on the ground. I guess, I know this audit's not about grant writing. That probably is a bit more of my bias, which is I'd love to see more money come into the city so we can do more things. But I keep wondering, the fact that, for example, San Diego and San Francisco have trainings in grant writing, things like that, just makes me wonder, are we leaving a lot of money on the table just because nobody wakes up every morning thinking about how do I get more money to try to provide resources for the city to do more things, because department heads are running around scrambling, as everybody on their teams are, to actually do the work. And so thinking about how to get those resources is not necessarily top of mind because they're racing so hard to implement. So anyway, I throw that out there. Thank you for considering it. Okay, Councilor Esparza? Nope.
Nope, that's from before.
Okay. Any other questions? All right,
Mayor, if I could jump in.
Yeah,
So I
jump
want
in.
to point out in the first recommendation about, staffing resources to develop and maintain citywide guidelines and training, we do include the application portion of that because that is a really important piece. And we did note in the audit, the Office of Intergovernmental Relations had begun identifying grants in a limited manner uh, over the last couple of years. But I believe the individual doing that work is also in a eliminated position, or at least it was at the time. So again, it's a resource question, and it really, as Julia mentioned, trying to figure out that balance of who's the right person to do it. If it's someone close to the service, then that monitoring piece. But some of these higher level functions, developing those trainings, something like that. That's where our push and our recommendations were about.
Thanks, Joe. All right, thanks, everybody. We do have a motion. Let's vote.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Perales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Roscoe,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Esparza.
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan.
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, 3.7, procurement improvement status report. We're doing a lot of improving today. This is all about being our best selves. Welcome again, Julie.
It's a strategic support day for you, at least until the evening time, right? So we're happy to be here. So I just want to start it off by saying I'm joined here with Jennifer Chang, who is our Deputy Director of Procurement and Risk Management. We also have via Zoom 2 members from the Guidehouse team, Barry Leffler and Stephen Duarte, who worked really closely with the city in developing these reports. I also want to thank our partners across the organization that worked with Guidehouse. They really were very supportive of the efforts underway to look for to help us find ways that we can improve the procurement process across the organization. And also, we want to recognize that the recommendations that are coming forward is really a multi-year effort that's going to involve kind of a continual engagement throughout the organization as we see kind of what are the sweet spots in terms of changing the Muni code, looking at some of our practices and procedures, and and providing some additional staffing resources. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer, and she's going to make the presentation.
Thank you, Julia. Hello, Mayor, Council Member, City Staff. I'm Jennifer Chang, Deputy Director of Finance for Purchasing and Risk Management. So we're here to talk about procurement improvement, and what we told Council of City Roadmap last year, what our goal is to increase the organizational capacity, efficiency, and effectiveness of city procurements across the entire value chain. So as Julia stated, as a key component of that effort, the city conducted an RFP, a request for proposal, and engaged with the consulting Guidehouse to complete a comprehensive assessment of the city's procurement process. That effort initially kicked off in February 2020, but it was put on hold due to the pandemic. We re-kicked off that effort in October in 2022, and we're here to present Guidehouse's observations and key recommendations resulting from their 2 reports, which are attached to the supplemental memo to this item. So as a reminder, the city has 3 different procurement processes. The purchasing division, the finance department, which I oversee, is responsible for the procurement and contracting of equipment, goods, non-consulting services, and IT. City departments are responsible for procuring consulting services with oversight from the city manager's office, and the public works department is responsible for the procurement of construction and capital improvement projects. The scope of work for this project initially focused on finance purchasing-led procurements, but after having identified potential efficiencies with the city manager's office, we later expanded the scope to include department-led consulting procurements. So Guidehouse started on this effort by analyzing city data, researching best and leading practices nationwide, and they conducted 76 interviews with city staff to conduct a detailed assessment of our procurement processes and to understand challenges. As a result of this effort, they produced a current state report to capture and document key issue areas in the city's procurement process. So this slide here captures some of the key themes uncovered from that assessment. They bucketed themes into the 5 major categories that you see here. So under people, Guidehouse identified that there is a lack of long-term investment in staffing, there's high turnover, but there is a desire for better customer education, onboarding, and training on cities' procurement processes. With regard to process, the process generally isn't well understood, and departments have disparate processes in how they are currently conducting consulting procurements. On technology, they found that the city's e-procurement system, it does the job, but some folks do desire more training. Our financial management system, FMS, is effective, but it's very outdated. And for certain requests, there's a desire from city staff for workflow management systems so they can understand where their requests are in the queue and to understand when things are in their court. And we currently don't have technology that easily allows us to automate and track key performance indicators. How we do this today is very manual. With regards to policies, some procurement policies are very difficult to implement, such as the informal 3 quotes process. Staff has also expressed that the competitive procurement threshold of $10,000 is too low. And lastly, purchasing does have a significant backlog that hampers our ability to procure needed goods and services. After this current state assessment was conducted, Guidehouse then conducted 5 visioning sessions with city leadership and stakeholders to envision the future of procurement at the city. Guidehouse used the feedback and the current state assessment to help us develop a salient mission statement and future state recommendations. The slide here shows where we would eventually like to get to. We want to get to a place where we have decreased processing times in procurements, better support the staff in navigating the procurement process, develop a diverse vendor pool, and continue to ensure the efficient use of city funds. Critically, the future state envisions purchasing having a seat at the table in the city's roadmap planning and other large-scale city initiatives where we can be a strategic partner at the forefront. And in the future, these are the various roles we aspire all of our purchasing stakeholders to play in procurements. So on to the key recommendations. Guidehouse categorized them in 5 major pillars. Each pillar represents a key component of developing and refining the city's procurement process, and we'll go through each at a high level. With regards to technology, and you'll see this on all pillars, that Guidehouse divides recommendations along a 1 to 5 year timeline. So with regards to technology, on quick wins, things that they think can be achieved within 1 year, Guidehouse is recommending developing dashboards using existing software tools to automate the tracking of KPIs. In the medium term, using automation technologies to change how we collect and work with requirements from departments on their procurement requests. And in the long term, it's eventually to replace our financial management system. Finance agrees with these recommendations, and we have included and secured through this year's budget process funds for technology. On training, some of the recommendations issued by Guidehouse were to redesign the purchasing's intranet site, introduce contract and procurement trainings, including modular trainings. In the medium term, to conduct a citywide disparity study, which efforts we're currently exploring right now, and developing an annual training program for purchasing staff. In the long term, some of the recommendations include developing a formal vendor outreach program and implementing a learning management system. We agree on all these points. A lot of these will take a lot of staffing and investments to make sure that we are appropriately resourcing new programs and technology initiatives. With regards to policy, Guidehouse is recommending the city to conduct a risk assessment examination on things like insurance requirements, on things like indemnification, items of that nature. And the city does agree with these points. It is going to be a collaborative effort with stakeholders, which will have to be prioritized. They also are recommending changes to the wage theft prevention policy, which we feel is very important and must be worked through our various stakeholders. Other items that they're recommending is increasing the competitive procurement threshold from $10,000 to $12,000. Finance and staff feels that we can possibly be a little more aggressive, and we're exploring what is an appropriate amount to increase to. And in the long term, they are also recommending a regular review of the Muni Code process and to bring forth recommendations to council at regular intervals. And with regards to process and consistency, they are recommending that we expand the usage of cooperative agreements so that we can easily contract with vendors where there's a diversity of vendors with resellers and manufacturers, and to transition to a model where purchasing is more involved in scope development with departments at the outset. There's some other items on here with regards to consulting procurements, which I'll get back to in a subsequent slide. And with regards to staffing, Guidehouse's findings is that the city is not sufficiently staffed to respond to the demands on our services. So just for illustration purposes, the work group that is responsible for purchase orders and low bids, their workload through a 10-year period from 2010 to 2020 increased by 250% with no change in staffing. The work group that is responsible for contracts and complex procurements like requests for proposals, their demand for their services is estimated to have increased over 13% annually. So Guidehouse is recommending a series of recommendations for staffing, and we have put through some of those recommendations through the 2022-23 budget process and have secured some funding in consideration of those recommendations. Lastly, this is one proposal recommendation that Guidehouse is recommending that we wanted to highlight on a separate slide. And that is Guidehouse is recommending that with regards to consulting procurements, that they be centralized with the finance department over a 5-year time frame. The finance department believes that we can probably achieve the efficiencies we would like to see without having to go through full centralization. We don't think the organization is ready for that. If the finance department in the future were staffed in a way where we could provide training or consultative advice to departments on their procurements, that may be enough to achieve the improvements we would like to see with department-led procurements. So using that 80-20 rule, we think that we can achieve a lot without having to go through full centralization. And this is the last slide. So this slide indicates or shows the implementation plan that Guidehouse is recommending. And as you can see, a lot of it is set at a very high level because it is contingent upon city decisions on investments in staffing, technology, various programs. So staff will be evaluating these recommendations, prioritizing them accordingly, and bring recommendations that require council approval back to council at a future date. And with that, that concludes my presentation. We're here for any questions. Guidehouse is also on the line if you have any questions.
Thank you. All right, Tony, public.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman. Thanks a lot for this item. To try my best to offer my feelings about this sort of work that I don't fully understand. I wish I did better, but to try to help in any way I can. The work I do with openness and accountability with technology can really, I think, be an important part. It already is an important part now in how we decide the procurement process. But to include those ideas in how you talk about this item in the future as part of overall goals is important. You had a smart cities item last week about where our technology practices are at. items that were in yellow seemed clearly to me that you need to be practicing more open public policies. You have to develop the public policies for them. And you didn't know how to talk about that in public. And so we're not quite there yet about how the open accountability practices with tech can really make a difference. And to share that with the consulting process and as a whole process when you're talking about the initial introduction, that's an important factor. And from that, to also mention the technology itself that you're procuring, we can, with our, what's it called, sanctuary city policies, our good practices of civil rights and civil protections, we can really fine tune what exactly the procurement process is about, and what exactly when we are, using our data collection and such to have better practices in civil rights and civil protections within that new technology we're procuring at this time. So that's my 2 cents, and always important to me, and hopefully it can be important to you, and what is the future of our sustainability as a community, peace, good practices. Thank you.
Back to council.
Thank you. All right, questions from the council? I had one. I know this has been to the Smart City Committee already. But as I looked at that slide describing the continuum between centralization and decentralization, I would have guessed, knowing nothing about procurement other than that it's the biggest gripe of, not the biggest gripe. It's a common gripe I know I hear in Maine. Oh, we can't get through procurement. Okay. I would assume that because of the griping, that means this is really centralized, and everybody's griping because they don't have enough control over this. But what I think I hear from the consultant is that the procurements are decentralized, and we need to centralize more.
That was specifically related to consulting services.
Okay.
And not the rest, not the procurement that's under Jennifer's shop or in Public Works.
I got it.
But it's just related to consulting services.
Okay. So, okay, I'm sorry. So I misread that slide. Because I know one way to cure the griping is to decentralize and give it to everybody. And I guess my question is, as we think about procurement more broadly, is that something we may want to consider? I mean, I'm just nervous about this idea of more centralization because we're so incredibly challenged. I know that staffing is a big part of this, but we're just so incredibly challenged.
And I think
on
in that
being
area,
nimble already.
I think in the area on consulting services, it's where we agree to disagree with the consultant and think that there are some things that we can do to enhance our consultative nature in procurement in Jennifer's shop, in providing a resource that departments can come to when they're doing an RFP for consulting services, because they're not versed in the process of doing a procurement. So we can assist them in that, help them write a good scope, because sometimes things get tied up. Your scope of service is what really then helps define your contract, so you make sure you have a good contract so you get the service that you intended, right? So that we could provide those, essentially act as a consultant to the departments as they go through that process, but not completely centralize it. I don't think at the end of the day, for my personal opinion, that would be the best for the organization. But a few more staff people in purchasing to help departments do their job when they're doing those types of procurements, I think would be very beneficial.
Thanks. Thanks, Julia. If we were to talk about procurement, for example, in IT or for technology in any department, where do you think we are along the spectrum, and where should we be?
So currently that authority for the procurement of technology resides with the finance director. So it's with the finance department. And we see benefits in actually having that centralized, because we can identify where there's a common need across departments and work with the IT department to set up master agreements for certain things, leverage our buying power to negotiate with vendors, It's very, very handy when everything, like a commodity, is looked at an organizational level, like technology.
I definitely can see that, and I appreciate that. I guess it seems as though that is the pain point I hear about the most, is about procuring technology and how hard it is to be able to get stuff. To be technical about this. So I appreciate the point. I'm just, I guess I'll noodle on that some more. Councilmember Esparza?
Thank you. Yes, it's interesting with the technology as well, and the ability to work with smaller vendors versus, the big ones of the world, I think is a real issue. It's something that has come up in projects in the city, and definitely with council member offices, where we have technology that's made to help us serve our constituents, yet we still face the $10,000 threshold with a mayor and 10 council members. It's so there's definitely a lot of room to improve. I had a question on wage theft. I thought that was an interesting take. I would say that wage theft is a problem, and the way to address wage theft would be to make some modifications in order to prevent further wage theft from taking place in the city. I was unclear on what about the policy would need to be modified.
The way the policy is currently written right now, it creates a barrier and exclusion for any vendor who's had a wage theft violation, whether they paid the judgment or not. And that's where we run into challenges when we're trying to do a solicitation for, say, banking services, where all of the large vendors that would be able to comply with our minimum qualifications may have had an issue of wage theft, but they've paid their judgment. So that's the line that we're walking, is trying to determine when does somebody not become qualified to respond to an RFP. And so we've been working with the public works staff on that, and hope to be able to bring some slight modifications to the council after the summer recess and in the fall time, so that we can move forward with some procurements that we just are on the shelf, and we just continue to extend the existing agreements.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's to prevent bad actors and help businesses that don't steal wages from their employees. So I'm happy to have that debate at that time, but that ban is there for a reason. And so on procurement, I would also like to see how we could open it up to other businesses that don't commit wage theft. So that just simply making a modification to make it easier for bad actors to apply for public funds isn't the only option that will be presented to us at that time. That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Foley?
I don't think I had my hands raised, but okay. I don't have anything to say. Thank you.
But maybe make the motion.
So move to accept the report.
All right.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Tony?
Did the lights just get dimmed for that special moment? Or okay.
It's telling us to be stopped.
Ready?
Yes.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Morales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Carrasco,
Aye.
Davis,
Yes.
Esparza,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Liccardo. Thank you.
Okay, on to item 4.1, privately made firearm ordinance. And we have a presentation.
Aye. That's unanimous for the last item.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, and members of the public. My name is Sarah Sarape, Director of the Office of Administration, Policy and Intergovernmental Relations. I'm joined by Police Chief Mata, Lieutenant Steve Donahue, and Sergeant LaVos to present to you the proposed privately made firearm ordinance. As you know, over the last year, you've taken significant steps to reduce gun harm in San Jose. In addition to passing several ordinances, you directed the city attorney to return with an ordinance banning ghost guns. The privately made firearm ordinance is in response to this direction. First, I'll address what is a ghost gun. According to the U.S. Department of Justice, a privately made firearm is often called a ghost gun because it's not marked with a serial number, making it more difficult for law enforcement to trace if it is used to commit a crime. The terms are often used interchangeably. And let me clearly state, privately made firearms are not illegal. Current regulations do not restrict an individual's ability to make their own firearms for lawful purposes, provided the individual is not prohibited from possessing or receiving firearms, not engaged in the business of dealing or manufacturing firearms without a license, or some other unlawful activity. But private gun makers must abide by federal laws and any applicable state and local laws that govern privately made firearms. This proposed ordinance does nothing to change that legal right. Technological advances have made it easier for people to make guns using 3D printing and for companies to sell firearm part kits and standalone frames or receiver parts, without maintaining any records or conducting background checks. This allows individuals to make firearms quickly and easily without a serial number, making it difficult for law enforcement to determine where, by whom, or when they were manufactured or sold. Because of tracing challenges, they're preferred by people prohibited from having guns. This relationship is seen in the exponential growth of ghost guns retrieved at crime scenes. The DOJ states there has been a substantial increase in the number of privately made firearms recovered from crime scenes throughout the country in recent years. From January 2016 through December 2021, there were over 45,000 suspected privately made firearms recovered by law enforcement from potential crime scenes and reported to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Indeed, the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, and the National Counterterrorism Center state that, quote, wide availability of ghost guns and the emergence of functional 3D printed guns are a homeland security threat. Tracing firearms is essential for federal, state, local, and international law enforcement agencies to utilize in their criminal investigations. The proliferation of untraceable firearms severely undermines this process. For these and more reasons, the DOJ published a new rule on April 11th that does several things. I'll name a few important to this context. To help law enforcement trace guns used in crimes, the rule modernizes the definition of frame or receiver, clarifying what must be marked with a serial number, including in easy-to-build firearm kits. To help keep guns from being sold to convicted felons and other prohibited purchasers, the rule makes clear that retailers must run background checks before selling kits containing the parts necessary for someone to readily make a gun. And to help reduce the number of unmarked and hard-to-trace ghost guns, The rule establishes requirements for federally licensed firearm dealers and gunsmiths to have serial numbers added to 3D printed guns or other unserialized guns in their inventory. The state of California has been a leader in regulating ghost guns over the last several years. For example, current law requires individuals assembling a privately made firearm to first apply to the California DOJ for a serial number. The state also prohibits the sale or transfer of unserialized firearms, as well as helping people prohibited from possessing guns to manufacture or assemble them. And beginning July 1st of this year, when AB 879 takes effect, the sale or transfer of a firearm precursor part must be conducted through a licensed vendor. Vendors will be required to verify that a potential purchaser or transferee is authorized to possess firearm precursor parts, and if not approved, the vendor must deny the sale or transfer. This change helps close a dangerous loophole related to people prohibited from having firearms by ensuring that all precursor parts that can be easily made into firearms are sold by licensed vendors, and that each of these parts are sold only after the buyer undergoes a state background check. Many large cities in California have also further banned the possession, sale, and transfer of unserialized firearms and unfinished frames and receivers, including the city and county of San Francisco, the cities of Los Angeles, San Diego, and Oakland, with the city of San Diego getting its first conviction under their ordinance last week. That brings us to the proposed ordinance before you. In addition to the regulations I have already described at the state and federal level, similar to other large cities in California, the proposed privately made firearm ordinance prohibits the possession of unfinished frames or receivers unless they are imprinted with a serial number. And if approved, the city would provide owners of these parts 120 days from the effective day of the ordinance to become compliant. This, of course, is only impactful for the current supply of unfinished frames and receivers, since, starting in August, manufacturers of these parts will be required to serialize them. Also, importantly, there's a state bill that just passed the Assembly Public Safety Committee that would essentially do the exact same thing that all the other city ordinances are doing, which is requiring serial numbers on unfinished frames and receivers. So what are we talking about here? The picture on the left shows an AR-15 style lower receiver. By definition, this is a firearm. If you were to remove the two small holes and the bigger hole on the left and the large cutout on the top left, it would be an unfinished receiver. When this is coupled with other features, it becomes a rifle or can be converted into a pistol. The picture on the right shows an unfinished pistol frame. By definition, this is not a firearm. To make it into a firearm, one would need to add specific features such as a rail. This ordinance would require a serial number on that unfinished frame. Here's another perspective. The picture on the left is a firearm according to the ATF. Note the three holes on the picture on the left that are missing on the picture to the right. These are the keys to turn an unfinished frame on the right into the firearm on the left. When someone purchases an 80% frame, what they're buying is the picture on the right. The remaining 20% is milling those three holes to turn it into something that can be made into a functioning firearm. This ordinance will require a serial number on that unfinished frame. Lastly, should you pass this ordinance today, we would communicate to our residents that they have 120 days from the date the ordinance becomes effective to become compliant. Unique serial number applications can be submitted via the California Firearms Application Reporting System to request a unique serial number. This concludes our presentation. The action before you is to approve the proposed ordinance, and we're available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation, Sarah. Very helpful. All right, let's go to the public.
Blair Beekman.
Hi, Blair Beekman here. On the last item, I forgot to mention that in the importance of openness and accountability with procurement, it's civil rights and civil protections that's the key of open public policies in the future of procurement, I think. And how civil rights and civil protections relates to this item, it's my feeling that, you know, I want to respect the rights of gun owners and their process, but at the same time, when those rights start to infringe upon people who don't want arms and who are being like hurt by arms, I think that becomes a question then that we have to consider. For instance, in Texas right now, they're loosening their gun laws, and at the same time, there's a pretty big rise in, you know, injuries and death of other people that's going on. So it's a trade-off that I hope, you know, if Texas goes the way as it continues for the next 20 years, it will plateau perhaps in a 20-year time period. We're going to have to wait and then start really working programs that then. California, we're taking a different approach. We're trying to, you know, I don't know, just deal with guns themselves is not exactly that great of a tool. I mean, it can be necessary for some instances, but I think it can be questioned. I'm in that camp myself. So with my final 30 seconds, so thank you that you're working on this item. It's taken a lot of effort just to get here. So we're trying to practice something decent, I think. And we're trying to address, you know, the ghost gun manufacturers who do this in the name of war and sell them across the world. We put a damper on that, and now you're doing this item. So thank you that how much we're trying to address this issue, and that we all want to practice gun safety and not hurt each other. Thank you.
Ted Scarlett.
Good afternoon, City Council. My name's Ted Scarlett. I would oppose the ordinance only from the standpoint that, as the presentation shows, the federal government and the state are already working on this matter. And it bothers me that the City Council spends time on something like this that will actually not prevent any violence whatsoever. And we know this by now. And I would ask and urge the City Council to work on things that will prevent the violence in the first place. And I think number one in all of this is mental health. And it just, again, it bothers me that so much City Council time is spent with this instead of mental health. Thank you.
Silicon Valley Public Accountability.
Hi, my name is Jonathan Fleming, and I'm the CEO and the Executive Director for the Silicon Valley Public Accountability Foundation. And we believe that correct definitions do matter. A privately manufactured firearm, or PMF, is any privately made firearm, frame, or receiver, completed, assembled, or otherwise produced by a person other than a licensed manufacturer. Staff's graphic was incorrect, but I do appreciate Sarah explaining that not all PMFs are illegal. And I wonder, if they aren't all illegal, then why does the ordinance not clarify this? And why does it not target untraceable PMFs only? A PMF is constitutionally protective, while an untraceable PMF is a ghost gun. Both are PMFs, however, one is legal and the other is illegal. For those who remember geometry, it's like a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle may not be a square. Council directed staff to address ghost guns, which are specifically untraceable PMFs again. An untraceable privately manufactured firearm means any privately manufactured firearm that is completed or contains a readily convertible unfinished frame or receiver and has not been imprinted with a serial number issued by a federal firearms importer or manufacturer, or has not been engraved or permanently affixed with a serial number provided by the state of California and the Department of Justice. The ordinance as written bans all privately manufactured firearms in San Jose, even legal ones, because it lumps all of them together. Our nonprofit would support the ordinance if there were just two very small changes made. To item 1032-280, prohibitions on readily convertible unfinished receivers and frames, with the term readily convertible added, and 1032-290, prohibitions on untraceable privately manufactured firearms, with the word untraceable added for clarification that this specifically targets illegal ghost guns. If these minor changes are made, we support this ordinance. We applaud staff for making those changes, and we applaud the council for their wisdom in making these two changes. Thank you very much.
Dawn?
A supply-side approach to gun violence means focusing not just on shooters, but also on the source of their guns. In addition to working with the youth of disparately impacted communities to interrupt the cycle of violence, a supply-side approach will look at the gun industry's marketing and retail practices. Ghost guns, for example, are expressly designed to be crime guns, relatively cheap, accessible without a background check, and untraceable if and when a crime is committed. Their popularity, ironically, creates the risk of violence, which they're supposed to be protection against. Kudos to San Jose for interrupting this unjustifiable flow of harm into its communities. Thank you.
Sharon?
My name is Sharon Jenkin. I'm the State Community Outreach Lead for Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. And I want to applaud the City Council for taking on this privately made firearm ordinance. The proliferation of guns in San Jose has been a huge epidemic, a huge problem, and these untraceable firearms or ghost guns are really becoming the most important part of this issue. I, again, thank you so much for taking this on and bringing us into line with other major cities such as San Francisco, LA, and Oakland in keeping our citizens safe. Thank you so much.
Kirk?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. As stated in an email sent to the City Manager, the City Attorney, and all of you, I want to support this ordinance. With minor changes, I can get behind it. The third slide showed ghost guns equals privately made firearms in big letters. Those terms are not interchangeable. A ghost gun is an untraceable privately made firearm, and privately made firearms are not necessarily ghost guns. It sounds like a minor distinction, but let's add language to make it clear. As you just heard, SVPAF asked for two small changes, 3 words, readily convertible and untraceable, to be added to the ordinance. Please amend this language to reflect these changes. I'm not challenging the added possession part of the ordinance that goes farther than state or federal laws, as I think that is a reasonable compromise. We want the same thing, so let's make sure the language is accurate. SVPAF reached out to the city manager and city attorney's offices on this, and it was great meeting with Sarah, Tara, and the 2 Noras. Unfortunately, the ordinance had already been mostly written or fully written by the time we met in person, allowing for little modification. So I'm asking you all to make just those minor modifications today. To the council, I ask that you continue to hold this body and the mayor accountable for community outreach on all gun harm reduction ordinances, not just Moms Demand Action or the Giffords or the Brady organizations, but to the residents and organizations that live here. Meet with the residents about what gun laws that have already been passed, how they impact people, what do people need to do, what's coming and why. I hope all council members see the value of engaging the community on sensitive and complicated issues like firearm laws. Please make the minor modification to the ordinance so we can all support it. Thank you.
Caller 3030.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. Ordinance as written.
Hi, you're very quiet. We can barely hear you. Can you speak up?
Okay, is that any better?
What was that?
Is that any better?
Oh, that is now. Go ahead.
Okay, the ordinance as written fails to distinguish between privately manufactured firearms and ghost guns. Ghost guns are a subset of privately manufactured firearms, PMFs for short.
Privately manufactured firearms, PMFs, are not in and of themselves necessarily illegal. However, ghost guns, the correct term that should be used here, are untraceable and therefore violate existing laws. So if you want to make this ordinance target criminal activity and therefore reduce crime, use the terms readily convertible and untraceable. Thank you, Mayor and City Council members. I know that you are concerned about violence in our community. I would suggest also that you direct people's attention to readily available and free mental health services that already exist that are designed to help the public find the help they need. And I also suggest you address crime, drug crime, any criminal behavior that happens to use guns and that is really should be the focus of what you're doing. Thank you.
Back to council.
Thank you. Sarah or others on staff, would you like to respond to, I think, the two concerns raised around language? One about a desire from some members of the community about including the terms readily convertible to describe the prohibition on unfinished receivers and frames, and then secondly, that I think the insertion or qualification of untraceable with regard to the privately manufactured firearms provision. Or Nora, or anyone?
I'm not an attorney, but I would
Yeah.
be happy to take the first attempt, and then Nora, if you want to add to it. To be clear, the attachment to the memo from the US DOJ, the fact sheet title is privately made firearms, AKA ghost guns. So these terms are indeed very interchangeable. In our ordinance, under the section 1032.290, prohibition on privately manufactured firearms, the prohibition reads, it shall be unlawful for any person to possess, sell, offer to sell, transfer, purchase, transport, receive, or manufacture a privately manufactured firearm that does not conform to state and federal law. So, I mean, we're being very specific here that the prohibition is if you're not conforming to state and federal law. In regard to the readily convertible, under the definition for unfinished frame or receiver on page 4, it defines unfinished frame or receiver as means a piece of any material that does not constitute the finished frame or receiver of a firearm, rifle, or shotgun, but that has been shaped or formed in any way to become the frame or receiver of a firearm, rifle, or shotgun, and number 1 says, which may readily be made into a functional frame or receiver through milling, drilling, or other means. So I think it is addressed in the ordinance in different ways, and I don't know if Nora would like to add to that.
In looking at the suggestions, my office did think they were distinctions without a difference given the language in the definitions, but I would defer to the police department and whether or not you think that there are distinctions that, or that these terms mean something in terms of the proposed ordinance and the types of guns that we're talking about.
Lieutenant Donahue, Research and Development from the Police Department. We actually agree with Mr. Rathi and Ms. Fryman. When we discuss the unfinished frame or receiver, based on the definition that's in the ordinance as written by the City Attorney's Office, it clearly differentiates between just a blob of metal or some printing parts to something that's been formed into what will be made into a firearm. I mean, it clearly defines it as that, and then it goes on to say that it can readily be made. So they're asking us to put readily just in a different spot. The way the ordinance is written, it seems to be very clear for us that we may be readily made into a functional firearm. So we're totally fine with the language.
Okay. So what I think I'm hearing is it would be redundant, simply throw more of this language in.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant. Thank you to you, Sarah, and to Tara on Nora's team, and to you, Lieutenant, for all your work on this ordinance and our other related gun harm measures. All right, is there other questions or comments? Councilor Davis?
Thank you. I want to thank Sarah and the chief and the lieutenant for the clarification, Nora. I think it's really important. I read through the ordinance. It's clear in here to me that we're talking about exempting things that are serialized, and it's really important for us to get the ghost guns, the untraceable weapons, off the streets. So I'm happy to support this. And I just, Sarah, if you can just clarify, the way that I understand this is we're taking action now because we can do it sooner than when the state law goes into effect. Is that correct?
That is correct, council member. But so some parts of the ordinance are in some way redundant with state law. Other parts are filling a gap before federal law takes effect. The third piece related to the possession of unfinished frames and receivers is different, but it's not some new innovation. These other cities have done it as well. And if the state law that's currently being contemplated in the capital passes, then we're basically just filling another gap.
Okay, thank you. I think it's important for us to do that as local law enforcement. That is, I've heard from many police officers that they're constantly recovering ghost guns as they are coming in contact with suspects and criminals. And so I'm happy to support this today. And I just want to point out to anyone who is commenting about mental health, please feel free to go down to heading and make those comments to the county, which has the responsibility for providing mental health services to all of our residents, not only in San Jose, but throughout Santa Clara County.
Thank you. I appreciate you clarifying both Councilmember Davis and Sarah on that important issue, what exactly we're doing that's different, that hasn't been done. And I just want to make sure I'm clear in my own mind, Sarah, that the federal rules that passed on April 11th essentially will address distribution and sale, so at least we'll stop the tide from rising of these illegal ghost guns. But that ocean of guns that's already out there, the federal ordinance alone doesn't enable us to be able to say, hey, you can't possess that, which is what we want our police officers to be able to say when they encounter somebody with a frame or receiver that appears to qualify under the ordinance. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. So I think that's an important distinction, in addition to obviously the gap in timing. And, Sacramento may or may not pass laws, and if they're comprehensive, I expect they'll be preemptive anyway, and that's fine. In the meantime, I think cities are recognizing we've got a challenge we've got to deal with in our own cities. Councilmember Cohen?
Yeah, I just want to thank staff and everybody who's worked on this ordinance and move its approval.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Councilor Esparza?
Thank you. I had a question on this. I agree with my colleagues. I think ghost guns are an epidemic, and we see the proliferation in neighborhoods. But I have a question on the penalty for noncompliance. So it's my understanding that the penalty for noncompliance is either an administrative citation or a misdemeanor. Can you talk a little bit more about that, please?
Yes, thank you for the question, council member. And Nora, or the chief, if you want to jump in here, I welcome that. The ordinance council member is essentially silent on the penalties, which means that the penalties could be applied through either Chapter 115 of the Administrative Citations or Chapter 108 Enforcement Code, which would be a misdemeanor. In regard to the misdemeanor, the highest penalty here would be no more than $1,000 or imprisonment in the city or county jail for a period not to exceed 6 months.
And the citation would be $100 fine, right?
The administrative fee?
Administrative citation, right? Because it could be a citation or a misdemeanor. That's what I'm not clear on, is that there's not a lot of clarity on what the penalty would be.
So for the administrative citation, the fee amount has not yet been established, which, Nora, if I understand this correctly, then the default amount would apply, which is $25?
Correct. We would need to establish a penalty for that type of violation. Under the municipal code, we can only have infractions or misdemeanors, and we would deal with this as we do most of the Muni Code violations and make a decision on pursuing it either as a civil infraction with penalty or a misdemeanor.
Okay. And is impoundment an option? Can we take it?
It it is not just for a violation of our Muni Code. And so there are oftentimes other reasons that that the guns are impounded, particularly under federal and state law. But if it's simply a violation of our Muni Code, then that is not an option.
And so how can we address that gap?
We're covering a narrow piece, and this has been an ongoing question, but by law, we don't have the ability to just seize personal property under our municipal code. Our office can continue to look, but we have not come up with a way to do that.
Okay, thank you.
And Councilmember, if I may just add, we hope not to come across these, but when we do come across them, then that will address it, and that will require us to conduct further investigation to possibly find another alternative where we can impound or seize those items. But normally the way we come across them is these items are already put together as a untraceable ghost gun or firearm.
Got it. Thank you.
Councilmember Esparza identified an issue. It's been a sore spot for me. I know that Nora and I have had a lot of conversation about why we can't do this. Nora, I'll try one last question on this because I know we've gone back and forth. If we can get legislation through at the state that prohibits the possession in the same way we're prohibiting the possession, then these items become contraband, don't they? And we can seize them. Is that right?
Mayor, generally, I think that would be correct.
Okay.
And that would give the police department the legal basis to seize.
Okay. Yeah, it's paradoxical, but I think the point the chief made is a good one, which is there's going to be a whole lot of other things going on probably if we're finding these guns in someone's possession, and usually those other things will give us plenty of basis for doing what needs to be done to make the situation safe. So thank you. All right, other questions? Okay, let's vote then.
Jimenez,
Yes.
Perales,
Yes.
Cohen,
Aye.
Carrasco,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Esparza,
Yes.
Foley,
Aye.
Mahan,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Ricardo.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks. So we're now in the rare situation of having moved along too quickly We have a 4.2, the report reimagining public safety community advisory committee is to be heard at 6 o'clock. So everybody, let's take a break and see you again at 6.